Hi, everybody.
Hello.
One day we will change that transition.
We won't. We won't.
It
We
is
never
kind
will.
of like, what?
What? That's the end of that. Sudden Jonathan.
Yep.
I like how you
Jonathan.
predicted that the audience was going to say that, and you
Oh.
already had it on an image.
For sure. Every time it's, Sudden Daniel.
Oh, I didn't even
Sudden
see
Jonathan.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. Well
Nice.
done. Hi, everybody. Welcome to your
Hey,
next
Polly.
Friday. This is not next Friday. Welcome to Friday, this Friday. Because it's not next
Today.
Friday.
And apologies in the UK. We're 3 weeks adrift on daylight savings. So it's actually 5:30 in the UK instead of 6:30. But well done, everybody. I mean, I guess if you haven't made it here, I can't say well done, but well done to the people who did work it out and made it here at the right time.
You have
Yeah, there's some strange stuff going on. Because
It's really annoying.
we pre-scheduled this, I think, before the time change. And so the
Yes,
software
correct.
didn't auto-update
Nope.
on the old ones that we had already
Really
scheduled.
frustrating. Yeah.
So
you're
sorry
7
about
hours,
that.
You're 7 hours ahead of us currently.
5.
Oh, 5 because we went.
We gain an hour back.
ahead.
Yeah.
Are you?
And then at
do
the end
you
of the
have
month,
daylight
we'll be back to
savings?
6. We do. Yeah. So in 3 weeks, we'll be back to 6 hours.
Oh,
It's so dumb. It's literally 3 weeks of being 5 and then
It
back
is
to
dumb.
6.
yeah.
It's so stupid. So dumb.
How dare us attempt to figure out how to efficiently have daylight time to do our work? How
No,
could we?
stupid farmers. It's for the they don't need it. It's fine. And global warming means that it's always bright. That's how
Yeah.
that works.
That's what
Nick
that means.
Nick spent all day yesterday listening to me talk about my octopussy. Oh wait, no, that's not what that was.
Is there something wrong with the sound?
Mm.
Asks History Lover.
Oh, I don't know. Can you tell us? Is there
Let's-
something wrong with the sound?
Let's make sure that everybody can hear us and everything too before we.
Ah.
Yeah.
So
Thanks,
that's on the
Aids.
YouTube
Thank
side.
you, Aids.
Specifically
I
what's
can't
wrong.
hear the comments. Is
Oh,
that-
he's getting a strange echo.
Oh,
Echo.
interesting. You can't hear the comments.
no. I'm having to read them, which is super annoying. They need to
Yeah.
talk to me.
Flyboy, hey Flyboy, will you give us the history? Just type it all out for us, you know?
Do it. Do the whole thing. I love being fact checked on the spot. I think 90% of what I say is bullshit because it's always like, nope, that's not what it was.
So David is also listening over on YouTube history, and for some reason they're not. Do you happen to have maybe like 2 tabs open accidentally, maybe on the device that you're watching
That's a good
from?
point. Do you want to listen to us twice?
Everybody else that's commenting, and
Are-
thank you guys so much for setting it up and helping out with that part.
Are you in a
Um,
canyon?
It also sucks that this is like the first time in a long time that history's been able to make it to a live show and the sound starts screwing
Maybe
up.
that's why, is we want to give you the double dose of the show.
Yeah, I get it twice.
Man, what a weird situation. Well, maybe you refresh your page. Let's see
Yeah.
if that fixes it. It was a World War I energy savings measure that no longer works. Polly says it was a World War I thing, then a World War II thing, then
What are we
just kept
talking
in the
about? Oh,
60s,
daylight
and my
savings.
home state, Arizona, just
I
said
thought-
no.
I thought we were talking about the episode all of a sudden. I was very confused because that actually fits.
It fits.
Actually tracks. Yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't it have been funny if this episode would have included why they started doing that?
Yes.
Yep.
The
Like, it was
Ferengi for the
I
reason.
It was
always
the
thought it
Ferengi,
was.
yeah.
Oh, that's
I always thought it
amazing.
had to do with farmers. That's not right.
Yeah, I thought it was to give them more daylight hours.
Which is
but
why a lot of
it's
people
missed,
say
apparently.
now it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It was a weather balloon, guys.
Blame the weather balloon. That's changed all of the clocks.
Oh, man. Pizza an hour ago? Come on, pizza.
I'm so done with businesses being what do you call it? Shit. Not doing the thing that they're meant to be doing. It's
The best
so
is when we had that.
frustrating.
We all ate lunch together, and mine just never showed up, and it was like a journey. It was just like every now and then I got a message that was
Oh
like,
yeah, we had that shared lunch, and it was just like Jonathan never.
and then
ate
at
a
the
thing.
end it was like, we're not delivering this to you. Sorry.
going to be
Yeah.
I don't know
hungry.
what happened. I was like, well, Uber Eats, never using you again. Peace out.
You never ever got
Amazing.
your food. It didn't show
Nope.
up like a week later.
No.
I forgot that
Yeah.
I had. So early in the morning, a couple days ago, I decided to do a grocery delivery for myself because I knew I wasn't going to get to the store and I really needed some stuff. So I went on and I scheduled it, and I scheduled it in the free delivery zone, which was 8 hours later, and totally forgot. So this hillbilly pulls into my driveway in a red truck wearing a trucker's cap. He comes out of his truck. He kind of circles around the truck. He's looking at the house, and I'm on high alert. I'm like, who is this stranger here? Totally forgot I'd ordered groceries.
That's scary. Someone like that pulls up on your drive in a truck. Good chance there's a gun in there.
That would just be a person. Like that's Tennessean.
He's just sort of like circling the truck.
Yeah.
He has, and I'm paying specific attention to what he looks like in case I need to give a description later, right? You know,
Yeah,
I'm on
to
high
the
alert.
police. Yeah.
And
Or
so
to your coroner.
I'm going, he's got a like a mullet. His hair is sort of strawberry colored, so it's like a strawberry colored mullet. His truck was really interesting. He kind of like kicked the back tire. I'm guessing that helps with the air pressure of the tire somehow.
No, that's where he keeps. That's the secret tap to get the hidden gun that's under the body.
I was really alarmed when I heard the back hatch open because my windows were open, so I could hear him as well. And he goes, it creaks down, and then he begins to haul something heavy out. I'm like, there's the murder devices right there. That's that's his kill kit, and
it's like a whole like a saw torture setup.
Yeah,
thing. He's getting you ready.
This big old plastic bin, and then he like shuffles down the driveway, and then I can see like some little plastic bag handles.
Did you see a
top.
baguette? Was there a baguette?
Yeah. How else are you gonna know it's groceries?
That's why I ordered the
Exactly,
baguette. That's the only reason I order it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Oh, that's my groceries. He's not gonna kill me.
Oh man!
What is a strollet? I like that.
The strawberry mullet. The strawberry colored mullet. Yeah.
I've heard of a scrollet, which is really scary.
Yeah.
I did not have anyone's animal at the time. That would happen later on in the day, but that's a whole other story.
I want to quickly tell people about how you turned up to a meeting yesterday as Ambassador Danae.
I did. I forgot to change my name from just Danae. So I showed up to a meeting as Ambassador Danae, and they're like
Ambassador Danae?
Guys, I do a podcast where I pretend to be an ambassador. We go to space. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, it happens every week.
I would be. Sorry, go ahead.
I will tell you a quick dog story that is not in the outtakes. This is probably more interesting anyway. So I was going on to a website for the local animal control just to kind of see what sort of animals might be there. You know, just needing some help, maybe. Because I have a problem.
You have 3 animals and a child in your house.
I was told never to ask about this, Ian. I respect Danae's wishes.
But we weren't recording at the time, and I know we're recording now. That's the only reason that I acquiesced.
Thank you. Yeah.
Saving this gold for when we record.
But here's what happened. I went to their website and I was clicking around to see the pictures to see what sort of animals are there because I see missing dog posters. And their poor dog is missing. Maybe they're at the shelter. I've got some time. I'll just sit here and look through.
Who's not checking that first, though? Surely that's the first thing you do. You check the shelters, or you keep checking them. Don't give me that. That's nonsense.
Maybe there's a cute puppy.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
I digest keep telling this story. Once you're done, though, I have to remember. I've been curious about your opinion on something I thought about the other day involving dog stories.
Oh, go for it. Just interrupt. This doesn't go anywhere important. Their website was malfunctioning, and I helped them. That's all. It's a really quick story.
I've become I started getting kind of obsessed with not obsessed, but I just found the videos where they find the dog and it's it's damaged, it's banged up, it's dirty, and then they take it to the cleaner with the vet, and then it gets checked up and it gets clean, and you get to see the entire transformation. So I'd watched I don't know 100 of these, and they're really sweet. It's these people rescue this dog and they save it, but then all of a sudden the other day I'm they're filming this dog when it's fucked up. They're filming it at first instead of helping it.
I'm hoping there's someone else.
How much footage is being taken? I'm just how long is it between when you find this dog and then you're oh wait, I gotta go get a camera. Hold on.
Yeah, wait.
Stay there. Stay fucked up.
So or is this do they purposely get the dog dirty? It's just I don't know. Now I've started because I just it's kind of those commercials with the kids and they're filming the kids and you're what did the cameraman not have a sandwich? What I mean,
no, I get it.
So I don't know. Now I've started like questioning whether or not those videos
Yeah.
are actually good.
How do we
Yeah.
make this dog cry? Let's workshop this,
Well, and
people.
somebody was saying something the other day too. They were talking about the movie Cujo, and like I never thought about this before, but like animals never know they're acting. So like you're
How
like,
do you get consent?
yeah, you're like, and you're making these dogs like all bloody and gross for these like horror movies and stuff. And you do, I mean, that is something, you know. I try not to think about it, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I think that there are some people that are trying to raise awareness that there are animals that need homes, that live in the streets, that look like crap, and they need attention and they need medical attention, but they're just as adorable as the dogs that you can buy from a puppy place that comes straight out in good condition. And so maybe they just sort of they're filmmakers and they're filming their process. But it is a little like dog rescues and animal rescues that are being recorded by the same person who's doing it. You are in two different brains. You're both in like, I'm saving this animal, but I'm also documenting it. And why are you documenting it? And in some cases they document it because they want to have it for their own self. And sometimes they're doing it because they want to have sponsors so that they can have more money to do more good. So I think what I would say is, in any case, no matter where you're at, no matter what site you're on, you do eventually think about how it's being made and why it's being made and the people behind it that are making money off of your view, and if you support them or not. And that's kind of up to each individual person to research.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a good answer.
What dog would be the center prize dog? There's so many options.
Biggest one, just the biggest, most inconvenient dog.
Like a Great Dane?
Great Dane mixed with a Burmese, whatever
mountain
that dog
dog
is, mountain dog, mixed with Madeline, whatever Madeline was,
Saint Bernard, which is basically a Bernese mountain dog.
You can also find. I've also found videos of just insanely huge dogs,
Clifford.
And like I had no idea how big dogs could
They're
get.
huge.
Some of those mastiffs and stuff. Yeah,
like put the unicorn horn on it from TOS.
Like, this is a terrible idea. There is no Moopsie.
The worst. Oh no, there is. They're selling Moopsies. So Master Replicas are now selling plush Moopsies.
I'm just saying,
Adorable.
a Moopsie as any animal on any ship is a terrible idea. What if it's like in that episode, all stuffed animals come to life, and then we're all fucked because Moopsie?
Yeah.
Irish Wolfhound would be a really great one because it's slightly derpy looking, and it is that gray color, which totally matches the Derper prize.
How do dogs go to the bathroom though on a spaceship?
Right?
Do they get trained to use like a pad?
Holodeck.
You just create a dog. You create an outdoor area in the holodeck, and then Nick Jaggett's got to go clean it up later, or whoever.
Yeah,
was that
Nick's
Nick
gonna
Jaggett?
be on that.
Right?
It was Nick.
Let's see. There was a David Ellis that they were getting a dog. Let's see. We're looking to add a new pup to our household. We might be adopting an Australian Shepherd. I will start this thought by saying I am not an expert, and I am not licensed to give advice in any way, shape, or form.
And yet.
And you are not asking for my opinion. So this is unsolicited advice that has no technical certification backing. Do not get an Australian Shepherd.
Oh, okay.
Unless you have a lot of time and energy, because they are so smart and they have so much energy, and all they want to do is get out there and do stuff. And
beautiful.
If they're meant to stay still in their home environment, they often turn into like little tornado tyrants because they just want to be doing things. There's this. Oh, I sent you Ian. I sent you a link to something to show on the show. Will you pop that open? I think it was on.
Oh yes.
Can you pull that up onto the
You bring up something though, Danae, that I don't think enough people take the time to do research on when it comes to dogs. You need to know what kind of environment the dog. Because what's funny is apartments, I think, are really bad about this, where they only let you have smaller dogs. A lot of these smaller dogs, though, they need a yard. Like Saint Bernards actually would be like the perfect apartment dog because they don't do anything.
They're huge.
I've got one laying down by my foot right now. Like
they're so big, and that's why they're called nanny dogs. They like to just stay close to the people and chill. Yeah.
But apartments would never let you have a Saint Bernard, and that's weird because like that would actually be a really good dog for an apartment, whereas like a beagle would be a terrible dog for an apartment, but apartments would allow you to have a beagle. So
I think that you're right. I have had probably more conversations with people that do not know what kind of dog they're getting than I have with people who have researched it first, statistically. And so that is why I am passionate about it, because obviously every dog is different. And there might be an Australian Shepherd that's just freaking chill, but I haven't met one yet. And I also sent a video to Ian. Are you going to pull it up on like a incognito window for us? You guys probably saw this on already because it's been circling.
I think I can do it. Okay, here we go.
This is... look at those Saint Bernard toes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I miss my Saint Bernard so much.
okay.
We're just dog sitting, although I'm not going to be shocked if we
Have you guys seen this? Can you make it full screen?
Oh, now you're asking.
Press Control and then scroll your mouse, and it might like actually. There you go. Yeah. It's zoom real in. It's gonna look all shady and stuff. But I saw this, and I had to show it to you guys. Have you guys seen this?
Mm-mm.
This dog.
Oh, yes, I have seen this. Yes, I've seen this.
This is an Australian Shepherd.
Yep.
They are so smart.
Yeah, my in-laws had them, and they were super hyper, super smart. Yeah.
Oh, they're so smart.
Those eyes.
I know. Look at this.
She has to get a head start.
Yeah. And it did so good. And it has to like stop in the yellow spots and stay there for like the points. Like it needs to stop right there, and it does. See, they're not supposed to jump off before it goes all the way down. It's just so cool. And watch the very end. We're almost to the very, very end, and it jumps up into her arms, and it's just the happiest dog. It's doing all of its best work. Look at it go, zigzag, zigzag, zig. And then watch.
Oh, look at that catch! That was
like
so good.
This comment. Now you know why I shit myself.
Oh, it's a border collie. It's not an Australian Shepherd. It's a border collie.
They kind of have similar.
They are very similar.
Yes.
Oh my God.
They might even be in the same.
I would never assume that people don't do research, and I didn't want to assume you hadn't done research, David.
Yeah, David.
Oh no, and I definitely wasn't saying that either. I do feel like that's I wonder sometimes if people actually do, and like I said, I think a lot of it is just society's perception.
Yeah, you want to get a cute dog. Yeah. American foxhounds are so interesting, and even just the hound in general. We had a neighbor that had a hound, and that dog, oh my God, it just wanted to follow its nose. That's all it could. It woke up every morning and just wanted to just follow a scent wherever it went, and it would. If not for it being a large dog that couldn't jump over fences, if it could get out, it would just go like this, just everywhere. It was amazing.
Yeah, my mom had bloodhounds for a minute,
or like the little beagles. Yeah. Oh, so cute.
Little beagle with a floppy ears. Oh, it's amazing.
Anyway,
well, you guys have a nice little treat because I wanted to do this part. Usually we do the email section as part of the main show, but there's an email that we got sent that I wanted to do with the live show.
Let's do it.
Just in case the sender sent it. The sender is watching, but I don't think they are, but maybe they can catch it later on. And this is awesome. So we're going to do a really quick transition into some emails. Okay, this next email I didn't really have any choice but to read because it's so good and I love the effort that went into it. So I'm just going to pull up this little visual for you. And podcast listeners, you can go to CSPN if you want to see the visual.
Blink, 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 blink.
We had an amazing email sent in from Bethany, who has put it into the LCARS format. It has a subject header. It has a star base. It's the amount of effort that went into this. It's like an official document. Glorious. It's so official. It doesn't matter what the content is. The effort that went into the actual LCARS-iness of it is amazing. But it helps that it's a really fun question as well. So Bethany says, the subject matter is, I have no common sense. Yes, I figured out warp drive. I forgot to mention this, but I have thought about this question multiple times. And the question is this. Good day, Captain. Good day, Ambassador. One of the things I appreciate about Star Trek is that it uses some actual scientific principles and theories. I can sometimes follow the principle, but I'm nowhere near being able to understand how it works. Yet in Lower Decks, the Packlets, who blindly follow the person with the biggest hat and flush themselves out airlocks because they think it's a toilet, have already figured out how to apply these theories. I don't know if it's humbling or insulting that our greatest scientists and engineers are still dumber than a pack of Packlets. My question is this. Is there an alien species in the Star Trek universe that you look at and wonder, how in the world did you figure out warp drive? Now, the answer for the Packlets is that they stole it somehow. So we find out in TNG that all of their technology has come about by them stealing it. They don't fully explain it. It's really that their language isn't developed, not that they themselves are stupid. But I do love this question. Ambassador, we'll go to you first. From your knowledge of Star Trek so far, which alien have you come across that you know is traveling the stars, and you're still like, you've got a warp drive?
I have never had this thought in my mind once.
This is the first Star Trek.
This is the first time that I've thought about that. I think I remember that when a civilization or when a species reaches a certain level, then they're visited by the Federation. And I think it's when they achieve warp drive, right? Isn't that when the Federation comes for a visit?
That's usually the trigger point. Yeah. That's the prime directive. That's the safe point where
you're going to come out into the stars.
Because you're going to find us.
Yeah. So we're going to find you first, and we're going to... Is the Federation a cult?
It's not a cult. It's an organization. The UN isn't a cult. It's a government body.
But the UN's not like...
combined body.
That's very different. So hold on. My brain's... Okay.
The UN and the Federation are very similar.
Okay, but the Federation's like, you just achieved this. We want to touch base with you first before anyone else gets to you.
I mean, that's the cynical view of, before the Klingons recruit you, yes, we're going to get to you first. Or the Romulans or whatever. Yeah,
exactly.
Depending on whose territory they fall into.
Interesting. Something for me to think about.
But don't some planets, they ask the Federation to be... I mean, the Federation doesn't go after them. They go after the Federation, right? Like, they're like, hey, we want to be a part of...
Yeah, some of them apply for membership. Yeah, so it's not like you've got warp drive, we're coming for you immediately. Sometimes it happens and they reach out.
I'm going to steal one from the chat, and I'm glad that you waited until we had a live chat, because I think that if I had a lot of time to remember everything, I would probably land where Flyboy lands, which is the Tamarians. How can you do anything technical or scientific if you only communicate in metaphor? And the reason that I would pick this one is I remember when we did this episode, our conversation evolved to this very topic of how do you convey anything? I don't know.
Anything really technical and specific, yeah.
Is that the Darmok?
Yeah, that's the Darmok people, yeah.
Yeah. So I think
there
that's
has to
where
be
I would
some
go.
other layer to it. Like, my favorite argument that we heard from the chat is that the ruling class and like the higher ups use this very formal speak, but the engineers and the lower deckers are actually just talking outside of metaphors, and that's how they got everything done. But it's the front forward people that are like really grand and use these metaphors.
Yeah, it would definitely be tricky.
Yeah, really tricky. Jonathan, what would your answer be?
I apologize. You guys showed me this email the other day, but I didn't realize we were going to be answering it. So I hadn't really thought about it. I was trying to think about it then, and I couldn't really come up with anything. I mean, I don't know. Maybe the humans.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. How did we get our shit together?
Did the salt vampires? Did they have?
The whole point was that it was stranded on a planet, so it had to.
Yeah, I guess the Horda didn't have it either. Yeah, humans. Nope. Humans is my answer.
That's amazing. Mine, it's not a strong argument. I don't know if this would hold up in court, but for me, it's always been the Klingons, because scientists. Me and Jonathan talked about this the other day.
Oh, that's true. That's a good one. Yeah.
Scientists in the Klingon Empire are derided. They are like mocked, and we see this happen in episodes where there's no honor in being a scientist. So how did you develop weapons, the plane, anything? And I know you're always going to have a subset of people that say, fuck the establishment, I don't care if this is dishonorable. I'm going to be a scientist. But then how did the Klingons get warp drive and are basically at our level, the Romulans level and the Vulcans level of like warp drive and that kind of technology? In theory, if they just have a tiny group of society that's focusing on technology, I would think it would take them way longer to make any kind of progress because they're constantly getting killed by the warriors. So the Klingons is always one that I'm like, how are you so technologically advanced if you hate science?
Well, and going back to humans, though, that's interesting because the episode we actually watched today, there's a whole bit of dialogue where the army guys, like the military guys, like you scientists, you're always up in the clouds or whatever he says.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. It's complete. I just don't know how the Klingons got around it. But yeah, great question. Love that, Bethany. Really appreciate the effort that you put into the LCAST presentation as well. Back to the show. Seamless, people. Seamless.
There's so many good ones in the chat, I'm sure.
Oh, so many good ones. Wait, according to Worf, in the very next episode, there was an alien species that invaded Kronos 1,000 years ago.
I don't remember that.
Wow, I completely forgot about that.
Oh, in the episode after Little Green Men?
That's so interesting. I mean, that would explain it, but how lucky is that? Then you just you still got to reverse engineer that technology, though, to make it go.
The Kazon's a good answer.
The knowledge you guys have is insane to me.
I didn't even know this happened, and you guys are pulling up the name of the species. I quit. Someone else can take over this job.
I mean, it's just incredible.
It's a great episode by the Kalis.
But I think I like the Kazon. That's a good answer because they're idiots. They're like they're like even dumber Klingons, which is kind of what they were pitched as. Was like Voyager was like, let's just have our own version of Klingons, but they're dumber.
It's just I'm so glad they ditched them so much.
Well, they had to because they were in it too long. Like
they were.
They had to get out of Kazon's space. Yeah.
How big is Kazon's space?
Because Basics is like the season 2 finale.
Yeah, it's the season 2 finale.
Too long.
Insane.
I hate that I did that, by the way.
No, you don't. You love it. That's because it's the episode where Suter meets his end, and he's a frigging great character that is underused.
Oh, yeah. The Brad Dourif character?
Yes.
Yeah.
The homicidal Beta Z.
Yeah, but that's also one of those things. Like, that was a really interesting idea. Like, what if you had a killer on Voyager? Like, what do you do with it? You can't just put him in it. But then they just kind of killed him off. So,
they just turned him.
That storyline's over.
Yeah, that's done. Amazing. Anything else before we get into the show, everybody?
I will do the update today without it being recorded.
Oh. But Jonathan hasn't heard it.
What are we talking about?
For those of you who are joining us live, thank you so much for joining us live. We appreciate you being here, but we're not going to talk to you anymore. Not because we don't like you, but because we have to do our show. This is the official recording of the podcast, Captain's Pod.
Done. Disclaimer finished.
Yep. Doesn't cover everything, but it seems to be just enough for the captain to limp along.
That seems to be more for me than anything, because Aaron always got mad at me on BTS because I would talk about the comments. Or I would talk about whatever Danae was doing. Like, and
Oh, BTS.
Oh, BTS.
I'm sure it will be back.
This is, as we usually say, and should have said already, this is an R-rated show. So we will be talking, we'll be cursing and talking about adult-themed content because we can't stop ourselves unless we are guesting on other podcasts, and we have to stop ourselves, and then we can be very, very good.
I still dropped an S-bomb.
You did drop an S-bomb recently when we guested on a podcast. More to come on that in the future. Having spent most of my start of broadcasting in the Christian radio world, I'm very good at going family friendly when needed, but I get to be my full self here on the CinemaSins side of things. We also, just as a reminder, are broadcasting on multiple platforms, and so you can catch us live on CSPN channel on YouTube, where some people are there already. David Ellis, History Lovers, I believe Flyboy is over there. And there's others that'll pop in. Sometimes new people will join during the show and not quite understand what's going on. So we kind of depend on you guys to say hello if they decide to pop up in the chat. We are also broadcasting on 3 other platforms: X for the Captain's Pod Twitter handle, and then also on to 2 different places on Twitch. The CinemaSins Live, which hosts all the CinemaSins shows and some other gaming, and then my own personal one, which is pretty dormant at this point due to a lack of time on my side. I can't go out and game as much as I used to.
But you can still scroll for puppies.
But you can still what? Oh, you want me to spend 12? I can scroll for puppies in 2 minutes. I can't go live and play Minesweeper.
Yeah, people will love 2 minutes of you playing a video game.
No, I doubt
Chat,
it.
just chime in. There's who's going to say no to that?
Oh my god. And then that's it. That's the only thing that we didn't really cover on the super speed that
Amazing.
Ian demands that we play every episode.
I love it. It's my favorite thing. And I must update it with a full long one. I'm just waiting for the perfect one where you get it so I don't have to piecemeal it together. Or I just let you do it. That works too. Right. Let's get into it, everybody.
Minesweeper.
Do it. Welcome to 10 Forward, the part of the show where we grab something from the Replicator and share our immediate thoughts and feelings on the episode we just watched. Most important question first. Lieutenant Jonathan, what would you like from the Replicator?
Not a nuclear bomb. That could be a really cool drink, though, right? I don't drink anymore. So
yeah.
That's a cocktail for sure.
Maybe like the non-alcoholic version of a drink, like a Shirley Temple version of the atomic bomb or something.
Yes, that's what I want.
That's what he's having. Ambassador?
Yeah, after watching this episode, I really wanted a cigarette again, so I guess I'll
so much.
Yeah,
I guess I'll smoke
so much smoking.
I guess I'll smoke one of those.
I almost said that too while we were watching, like, oh,
Jesus Christ.
That looks amazing.
I do enjoy a cigar. And
like,
the one that the general has, it's clearly like a prop thing, but it's just that fucking end is so chewed up and nasty. I'm just like, you are just getting tobacco just in your teeth. Yeah. But I would actually like a tooth sharpener, but I want a brand new one.
Oh my god!
Not a second.
I already forgot about the tooth sharpener. That seems like 3 years ago.
Why would you do that?
Oh, he's so happy. Like, I don't know what that's doing for him, but it's doing something.
That was also, but it's like only the 5th episode with Worf on that show, and you're just like, what are they? Do they know? What are they doing?
All we know is that Worf is a bit racist at the minute.
Yeah, we gotta give Worf something to do. Let's let him sharpen his tooth. Yeah, he is kind of racist on Deep Space Nine. You're right.
That's pretty much the only hey Danae, recap this episode. It's like, in today's episode, we do dental drilling.
Speaking of which, Danae, give us a synopsis.
Oh shit. The Ferengi travel back in time. One wants to take over the universe, and the others want to have sex with all of the women.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan, if you can sum that up any better, I challenge you. But I think that's the episode.
No, I mean, I think it's I think it's worth mentioning that it's 1947. So essentially,
yes.
And it's Roswell, right? So it's essentially
this is explaining Roswell.
So it's the Roswell landing is the Ferengis, and eventually Odo, who I had actually forgotten was in this episode.
Completely forgot.
Yeah,
completely forgot he's the ex machina in this.
But he's kind of and he's not. I mean, he's not really needed. So other than he fights off a couple of guards. But
yeah, I it might have been a pacing thing. It might have been Ira Stephen Bear was like, nah, maybe we've got a bit too much Ferengi in this. Let's have Odo just turn up as a dog.
This is a Ferengi episode. If we were doing another season on like a species, this would definitely be in the Ferengi mix because we learn a lot about the Ferengi that I did not know in today's episode.
Yes.
So I will say I think somebody already mentioned how much they love Ferengi episodes. One of my least favorite things about Deep Space Nine most seasons were the Ferengi episodes. This is definitely an exception to that. And I think it's because it got out of the whole, like, they're trying to please the Grand Nagus, or they're trying to take over the Grand Nagus, or they're trying to marry off somebody, or those always seem to be the plots of the Ferengi episodes. And it was all about like capitalism and all that kind of stuff. And that just didn't really interest me, which I guess this kind of is too, but it's in a different setting. It's like, what if the Ferengi were in the 1940s United States. Like,
Yeah.
that's
And I
what-
love it
that-
because this is what
yeah.
would go down. This is what would happen. They would take advantage and
Yeah.
capitalize.
The less,
and
the
I love
less,
revisionist history like this. I think it's
me
fun.
too. That is the less silly rendition. In this episode, we kind of like are going back to Earth time too. And I think that is always a smart thing for the writers to do, to bring all of the viewers like, oh, this is where we are. We're on Earth. We're watching the show. And this is what was really happening in Roswell. And, you know, the idea that they had to fly into the bomb to get back. So like all
I'm
these different
also-
fun, these little things. But yeah, this is a really interesting episode because it doesn't really, some of it's on Deep Space Nine at the very beginning. So you get a little bit of like what that show is about, but most of it is all on Earth, 1947.
Yep.
And it's also interesting to me. I wonder how an episode like this plays today to like people that did not grow up watching like 1950s science fiction films and stuff, because a lot of those tropes are in this episode, like the scientist and the man and the woman that are, you know, engaged, I guess, and then like, you know, she has that line of dialogue where she's like, "You better tell him I'm your girl."
Yeah.
I mean, but that was very much in the vein of like that era, like that 50s sci-fi tropes and stuff. And so it was really, to me, like, that's hilarious. But like, I could see somebody that has not watched a lot of those movies being like, what the fuck is, like, this is like sexist as hell. Like, but it's like kind of like that's the point. But
I have
it's
a
hard
question
for that to come across.
Before we go into the episode, since we're talking about these two characters, I first of all wrongly predicted that one of them was going to die because they were like, "I can't wait for us to get married," you know, like, and all
yeah,
that
you
stuff.
telegraphed the wedding. Yeah,
I kind of thought that maybe that was going to happen, but it didn't. And then I thought, are these two the parents of somebody that's going to appear in Starfleet later?
That's the other thing, isn't it? Where like, no, because they would have given us their name. They would have said, "Oh, this is Chief
like Kirk's
Scientist
grandparents
Picard.
or something." I don't know.
Exactly.
This is Johnny Picard.
Yeah.
Who are these people?
Plus they're 400 years before. No, they're just, I think they're very much just there to play into that. I think this is like Ira Stephen Barron, whoever writing this, I think they're probably like fans of this era of like science fiction and stuff. And I think they're just kind of playing with all the different tropes and stuff. That's my guess. I mean,
yeah, I think it's
maybe that could have been an intent, that maybe that was an idea at some point and then they just didn't do it. It definitely isn't what happens. I mean, I don't think so. I don't remember them ever coming back to this, but I think they were just playing around.
It reminded me of the episode that we watched where Kirk goes back in time and has to wrestle with the woman dying. What was that episode called?
City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah. Because you had this,
similar.
The female character was just like this forward thinker, and then she dies. So I thought that it was going to go that direction, and it didn't. But yeah, today's episode was really strongly just like a lot of teeth, you know.
Just
this was definitely playing up.
It was just a lot of teeth.
This was playing up the comedy and like how like just how ignorant like. And how like wrong-headed a lot of Americans were at that time, or the military was, you know, just however you want to play it. This is definitely playing up all the comedy. This is not, there's nothing about this that is really supposed to be taken seriously, I don't think.
No, it's definitely a breather. Take a break.
Are we supposed to take Star Trek seriously on a weekly basis?
Yes.
Well, I mean, some more than others. I mean, I definitely don't think this one. This one definitely doesn't play into anything that happens after it, really. Other than Nog, we get more of the advance. You know, talking about Nog going to Starfleet. Other than that, which you kind of get to see that. This is like such a great like. The first like half of season 4 is just like banger after banger, basically, and like you really get that 2-parter a few episodes after this, where they go to Earth, Homefront, and like Paradise Lost, I think, which is where you really start seeing how the changelings are affecting everything. So I don't know. Anyway, so you kind of lead up to that a little bit, but other than that, I mean, there's not anything in this that you're going to carry on to future episodes.
No. And like you said earlier, I might be in the minority on this. I didn't really enjoy the Ferengi episodes either for the reasons that you mentioned, but this one is unique to me.
Yeah, it is. No,
this is really, really fun because, and it's part of what you said, Danae, where they're bringing in really rapid fire some information I didn't know about the Ferengi, and I love the lore stuff. Like, I don't know if it's the first time it's mentioned, but we find out like about their concepts of heaven and hell and
the divine treasury.
they have to bid on
The
their
blessed
next life.
checker,
Yes, the blessed
the
exchequer.
celestial auctioneers.
It's so great, and it comes out so quick.
Wait, the celestial auctioneers that they have to bid for their new lives.
Yeah, to get reincarnated, and this throwaway line where Rom is like, "Could we be in the other place?" And he's like, "Oh, the chancellery of the damned, or the vault of the damned,
of eternal destitution."
And he's like, "No, we're not there because the bar was in profit." And that tells you that it's not based on your good deeds or bad deeds. It's whether you end up in the black at the end. It's so great. Like, boom, all of Ferengi culture.
So
done.
good. That part was delightful. And I was furiously typing because I was cracking up.
A massive lore dump just out of nowhere.
Let's just talk about that sequence right there. That's when this episode starts to sing for me. It was okay before that, but we get to you've got the whole setup and why they're getting the ship, and that they're really suspicious of why the ship is being given to them in such great condition. And then they go on their adventure. Then they realize the ship is indeed sabotaged. And then they have their, essentially their space crash, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And then they wake up in the past, and then they're acclimating to the past. And so it's kind of like all driving to get to what you said, Jonathan, the humor of this episode, which really starts when Quark wakes up. The officer calls on the phone and says, "Hey, it's awake." And then we realize that the translator is turned off, so we have this glorious back and forth confusion. We have this ape-like mimicry going on with the tapping of the heads and squeezing of the noses, and then Quark is like, "How can I put this into my to my advantage?" And like you said, Ian, that really quick back and forth, it gives us so much information about these people. And I really wish that they had spent more time on that in a way, but at the same time, it would have super taken away, like maybe just little other lines here and there as they're figuring out where they are. But they figure out they're in the past pretty quick, I guess. I kind of, if they would have wondered if they were in some sort of like Ferengi alternate universe and had just like a little bit more, I would have really loved it. But those few lines, the celestial auctioneer killed me.
So good.
Because
I think
that's what they were doing at the beginning of the episode. They were auctioning off his belongings so that he could go to go off on his next like adventure, this kid. What a fun way to see what these people are all about. And like when Quark goes full on like, I'm going to become the lord of this world, I'm going to contact the Ferengi Empire, we're going to do all this stuff. I was really proud of the episode for doing that, because it wasn't like, oh, let's protect the timeline. We usually see that because we're firmly in Federation, but this is different. This is a different environment. He is off the rails and fully embracing what he knows to survive, and I was really enjoying that part.
He's a villain. I mean, that's the interesting thing about Deep Space Nine too, is that it plays around with that, because you have these characters like Quark and Garrick, and they can be helpful, but they have motives, right? They have ulterior motives a lot of the time and stuff. And so, and I think sometimes the show, to its detriment, had problems with this, because it would want Quark to be one way in one episode, and then it would want him to be another way in another one. It didn't really make a lot of sense, but I really like him in this, because I think it makes him it gives him a much stronger storyline. It makes him more menacing. And so I find stuff like that interesting, because he is supposed to be a bad guy, basically. I mean,
I totally buy that. This is what Quark would do.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, 100%.
Like, Rom keeps mentioning the bar, and he's like, fuck the bar. I hate that place. I'm there because I can't figure out what to do next. Like, I can have a planet. And like, there's this running thing of Quark just wanting his own moon at some point.
Yeah, he's always looking for that next thing, like whatever it is. Like, he could care less about anything. He didn't care about his family.
This dome that he has, this massive, what I assume is a brain, and it's just hardwired for greed.
All skull.
You know, you think it's all skull and one pea brain?
And a tiny little brain.
I don't remember, because it's been a while since I've just sat down and watched a bunch of Deep Space Nine. I always found the stuff with him being so opposed to Nog joining the Federation, joining the Starfleet, to be a little like, I mean, not racist, but I just found it to be a little like it didn't even really seem like something he would be upset about. Like I would think he would try to figure out a way to use that to his benefit.
Yeah, you would think.
Versus-
Yeah.
Yeah, so that stuff's in here a little bit, and I don't really enjoy that part. I also I don't know if I'm in the minority here. I don't like Rom very much. He's always been one of my
Which
like,
one? The brother?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
he's
always
the
found him to
brother.
be. He's just like he's supposed to be comic relief, and I just don't. I mean, I think Max Grodenchuk is a good. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah.
I
he's
don't
great.
think he's a bad actor or anything. I think he does as good as he can with that writing, but I don't know the character's. Yeah, he's just annoying, and his voice. Yeah, his vocal stuff's annoying, and when he's moving or whatever, yeah, I was just like.
You're in the minority. Well, maybe not the minority. It depends
don't
on
know.
how Danae thinks. I might be in the minority, but I really like Rom. He's irritating in the early seasons. In the pilot, he's completely different. He has a normal voice. He's more intelligent.
He's
and then it's
more-
a few episodes later
more of a
where he
villain
becomes.
too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's later on that he gets this persona.
he's
and I
kind
think
of
he
like
shines in later seasons.
he's. I feel like he's kind of a shitty dad at the beginning. Like he's kind of
Yeah,
mean
for
to
sure.
Nog, and
Well, I don't
Uh,
think they realized how much they were going to play with the Ferengi because
yeah,
at this point, all we knew was like the TNG Ferengi, which was
Yes.
pretty two-dimensional.
Yeah.
DS9 is where you get like the texture and the layers for it, and it kind of gives. Rom is very progressive, which is the whole thing.
and then who ends up becoming his wife? What's her name?
Is it Charisma Carp?
No, it's not Charisma. I mean,
Carpenter.
the actress, I can't remember her. It's not Charisma Carpenter, but I was trying to think. Is it Lita, something like that?
It's
Is that the-
Lita, and I
yeah.
cannot remember the actress's name.
I
Someone's
can't,
gonna
I
tell
hate
me.
that too because she like hosts I think she even has a Discovery podcast or something.
Chase
now.
Masterson.
Chase
That's the
Masterson.
one.
When it gets to that, some of that stuff's fun between the two of them. I think I might like him more as it progresses, like you're saying, but he's still kind of irritating me at this
Yeah.
point. Or at
Now-
least in this episode, he's irritating.
This is my first time seeing this character.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
And I vacillated, I guess is the word. Is that the right word? Where I was
Yeah.
emotionally like, this is a great character. Wow, he's really annoying. Why? Kind of like, oh,
Yeah.
okay.
What?
And here's a couple things
He's-
about this character that I didn't. This is, I think, what they want us to feel is a deep sense of uncomfortableness, because that fucking snaggletooth is so
Poking.
different than any. I can't. Most of the time, I didn't know what he was saying because I was just looking at it. It didn't bother you guys at
Yeah.
all.
No,
I
it
guess I'm just
bothers-
used to looking at Ferengi, so I don't.
No,
I-
it bothers the heck out of me every time I see him because I'm like, even the actor's lip must be really hurting unless that's made out of rubber.
no,
like,
I didn't think about that.
I'm
yeah,
sure
you're right.
it's rubber. I'm sure. But, the other Ferengi, yeah, they have sharp teeth, and obviously they sharpen them themselves because we have a tooth sharpener in this episode. And, and that's fine. But then there's this one, and it's sort of like laying on its side and like an iceberg, just sort of jutting in an odd angle. And I just kept thinking about it the entire time. And I wondered, does this set him apart from others? Like, what is the purpose of this? Because
Just
giving,
to make him look a bit derpy.
yeah, that's my question. Is it an honor for Ferengi to have like one really quirky tooth? And so
No,
No,
I
he's
think
just a
you-
derp. He's
yeah.
just the stupid trope. He's the comedic relief sidekick.
It-
I think
makeup-
he just adds to that.
is he though? Because he's super smart.
He can be both.
Well, see, that's another thing. That's another thing that was and like I said, I haven't watched consistent episodes of Deep Space Nine in a while, so maybe I'm wrong here. But like in this episode specifically, like when Quark's just like, "Oh, you're actually smart," it kind of almost felt like they made him smart because they needed someone to be smart in this episode. And
Does that
might,
continue?
That might continue. I think
Okay.
it kind of does. I mean,
Yeah, so at this point, he's in this transition phase between working for his brother and kind of being interested in helping out more on Deep
Yes.
Space Nine because Quark sends him to give the ship a once over because he knows that
Yeah.
he's kind of an engineering genius. He always fixes the replicators, but like he says, it's that self-confidence thing. His brother has beaten him down that he doesn't volunteer this stuff, but later on he becomes an excellent engineer, and that stuff is
that's
inside
true.
him
He
and
does
he's
do that stuff
learning.
with O'Brien.
His language and his way of presenting himself looks very stupid, but he's very intelligent.
I didn't get stupid from him at all. I just
You
got
probably wouldn't from this
an
episode.
interesting delivery, like his cadence, like you're talking about that kind of way that
Yeah.
you're talking, you know. So he kind of has that deeper sort of thing, and then of course the humor of that moment. But every time he was speaking, he seemed to have a real clear understanding of what was going on.
Yeah.
And I could tell that Quark wasn't used to seeing his brother in that light, but I didn't get derp at all. In fact, I was so confused that because at the end of the episode, we finish with Odo taking Quark out of the lift. They get back to Deep Space Nine and they're like, oh, I guess it's back to the bar. And Odo's like, no, Quark, you're in trouble for what you did. And then the brother character, he kind of steps out and is like, see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, he's like,
and then
oh,
it just sort of
yeah.
has this.
The bar is all mine.
I didn't
Yeah.
understand that expression. I didn't understand because it's also the slow like zoom up onto his face, which was looming. It was this.
Yeah.
It gave me the willy-nillys. I thought it made me think that the brother actually set all this up to get the bar. Like the brother knew about.
Right.
He was in on it somehow. That he's
No.
nefarious.
Like he told Odo about the
Yeah,
the stuff.
I mean,
Yeah,
there's
you might
different,
be right. And
there's
I
different
Go ahead.
types of like intelligence. He's not a
Yeah.
great strategist. Like you put a phaser in front of him and he can pull it apart and put it back together. But he's not planning this. He's just happy that he doesn't have to put up with his brother's bullshit for a few weeks, was my
Yeah.
interpretation. And that he can run the bar however he wants.
And like
Okay.
what Ian's saying, he does eventually get more involved in stuff on the station. And one of the commenters mentioned he ends up actually working with Chief O'Brien a bunch
Mhm.
as one of the station's engineers. I understand all that happens. I guess what I'm just saying that I can't remember up to this point what I feel like he hasn't been that much of a part of the show up to this
No.
point.
It's
And I
very
think this is
gradual.
kind of where they start giving him his, if you want to call it an arc, but he definitely gets his,
Yeah,
he
no,
becomes
I
more
agree.
of a character. And like I
Oh,
said,
interesting.
he becomes
Okay.
more of a part of the show. Deep Space
Yeah.
Nine did this a lot. I mean, which is interesting because they also introduced a new character this season by bringing Worf on. But at the
Yeah.
same time, they're giving Rom more to do. Garrick is a character that's going to become a lot more prominent, even though he's been on it off and on. That's the interesting thing about Deep Space Nine is how they kind of dabbled with all these other side characters.
Yeah.
I also want to say I was thinking about this when she was talking about Rom having a distinguishing. One thing watching this, I miss like this old style like makeup effects because
Yes.
but like every single one of them, like you can tell them apart, and like not just because of their size or
Mhm.
anything. I mean, like they all have distinguishing features, even though they're all the same like race, right? And they
Mhm.
do a really good job of like taking the time and the energy to actually give them each like their own like facial expression. You know what I'm saying? I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just
And I
it's
can see each actor
yeah
behind
exactly.
each prosthetic as well. They kind of accentuate
Yeah.
their natural features.
Yes.
I can see Armin, I can see Aaron, I can see Max. Like it's incredible makeup work that we don't see today.
Yeah,
Not in this
yeah.
same way.
Yes.
There, that moment whenever Quark squeezes his nose,
So good.
Yeah.
and all I'm thinking is like, "Don't break the foam! Don't break the foam!" You know?
Everyone behind the scenes just like, don't,
Oh, careful,
don't.
careful,
Why
careful,
did you have to write this? And I'm sure it's Ira Bear just fucking with everyone. I'm gonna dump
Probably.
a ton of Ferengi lore, and
Right.
they're gonna fuck up all of the prosthetics, like
I
bend
would
the
love
ears,
it.
do everything.
That scene was so
I would love
funny.
to talk to Ira Bear.
It's so good.
It was so
good.
funny. Like,
And I love that we just get this sudden information drop of the universal translators being in their ears.
inside
I'm like,
their ears.
Oh shit, that makes so much sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
I
couldn't
didn't
remember if
know
that
that.
was a thing before. I that
No,
was
I
yeah.
think this is the first time we see that.
Yeah. There's a lot that happens in that sort of 10-minute range where Quark is sort of figuring out what he wants to do before we even know that Odo is on the scene.
Yeah.
And we're really the moment when the humans are trying to figure out what they're doing, like, I wonder if that's the son and the father. Oh, maybe Quark's the mother. Like,
What's their dynamic here?
yeah. And Quark's over there's like, meh, 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 you know, fussing
Yeah.
around. So it was just really like cleverly done. I think some things that so Odo was hiding in the ship because he had his suspicions that something was wrong.
Mhm.
Then he gets down and he like blends in with the world and becomes a service dog.
Yeah.
And then he ends up saving the day by getting them out, essentially, like kind of being a
Yeah.
background man and getting them out. But the other two heroes are the scientists in this one. And this episode seems to really be like talking about, as we talked about Star Trek doing often, that humans are dangerous, where though we can figure some things out in a certain time frame, and that's really smart, and like we can abolish this and get past this in the Star Trek universe, we're able to advance as a society to this place. We're going back into our quote unquote primitive time, which isn't even our most primitive time.
Well, it's terrifying that these primitives have a nuke.
Right. And so this episode is touching on just those dangers. And we've seen other episodes talking about war and the dangers of war similarly, but this one doesn't quite go so on the nose with that. It also questions our smoking and
isn't
these other parts of like, you're putting off bombs and like, what's wrong with you? And here we have
poisoning your planet and your body. What are you doing?
And Quark's view is like, if it was Picard, he wouldn't even be talking to them in the first place. He'd be freaked out that he was breaking some sort of timeline. But if it was Picard, he'd be giving them a pep talk. But it's Quark, and he's like, how can I use this to my advantage? You guys are idiots. You are dumb, and I'm gonna use that.
Buy poison, you'll buy anything. It's so great.
Oh yeah, it had to be like if this had been like Cisco and Kira, it would have been a completely different episode, right? It would have been more of a drama probably, or more of a thriller, as opposed to being able to make it comical. But it's interesting too, watching this after we just Oppenheimer just won Best Picture as we're recording this, and that movie is obviously very serious, and but it's kind of interesting that the character traits though of the military men in this episode are not that off, right? I mean, they're basically the same characters. It's just one's in a comedy and one's in more of a drama.
I was definitely getting the Matt Damon vibes, definitely.
Exactly.
You mentioned like if this had been Cisco and Kira, I think I wouldn't like this episode if it was humans, because the bit about time travel, and this frustrated me in Picard season 2, it frustrates me in Time's Arrow, is when you have humans from the 24th century coming back to the 1900s or whatever, and they have to be dumb about things that we know they know and that they've mentioned. So like, oh, what's this baseball card? I don't understand what this is, or not understanding the cigarettes or whatnot. But having it be Ferengis, I buy. Like, they barely know anything about human culture, let alone human culture in the 1900s. Yeah. So it's so much easier to buy and to do this like satire of why were we doing this? Why are we so dumb?
I thought that they did a clever job too of having this Nog kid who is trying to go to Starfleet be the one that gives them the misinformation at times as well, like calling them Australians, and
so good.
Just these little yeah. So we're kind of like just skipping over a repeat of a history lesson, and we're going into what would happen if. So the idea is that this is exactly what happened in America in 1947 in July at Roswell. This is the conversations that they heard. This was the weather balloon incident where a Ferengi showed up in our history and said, we have universal translators, we've got warp, we've got all this stuff, because he told them so much. And then we get to the point where we're going into let's torture them for information, and everybody's roles start to just flip around. Now we have Quark, who's like, we're just friends, and we have the brother who's crying for his whatever, and then we have Nog, who gets this harebrained idea to invade
so
Cleveland.
Dumb. What a terrible plan this is.
And it works.
It doesn't though, does it? Because they have to help. Oh, it's so they're going to invade Cleveland. It's like, no, not Cleveland.
Which made me think of Howard the Duck for some reason, because Cleveland.
Yeah.
The humans.
One thing I also thought of was this. Obviously, this was 95, so Independence Day doesn't come out till the next year in that summer. But oh my God, if they had made this episode like a year later, I wonder if we would have had like a young Brent Spiner, version of that Brent Spiner character from Independence Day. It would have been amazing.
They love slipping in Noonian songs and sings everywhere. So it wouldn't be surprised if one of Data's ancestors.
And we could have tied Independence Day. Like that's actually a Noonian sing.
That would be amazing.
You guys want to see the tamale or whatever he says on Independence Day?
I love that so much. That's my new headcanon. We may have covered it already, but Jonathan, what is it about this episode that really elevates it and makes it like you messaged me saying, "Oh, this is one of my favorites"?
Yeah, no, it is. I love this. Just this is when looking back now, I don't know that we knew it necessarily at the time. Like D Space Nine was really trying to find like a voice because it was really struggling to really distance itself from, and then like the first two seasons they had some really good episodes, but they weren't getting the viewers that Next Generation was getting. And then so in season 3 they like gave them a ship and the Defiant, and they started kind of hinting at what the Dominion was going to be, and the Jem'Hadar got introduced and all that stuff. And then they decide to bring Worf, and we didn't know what that was going to be like because it's like, what is this going to change? And we eventually find out they do actually do a really, really good job of actually distinguishing Worf and actually making him a Deep Space Nine character, which is amazing. We're not quite there yet because we're so early on in this process. But I will say, knowing what I know now about Ira Stephen Bear and about how much he didn't give a shit about what Rick Berman said to him, this really feels like he's really finally just like, I'm just going to do whatever the hell I want. And so you get all this really interesting stuff. Because like we're going to have a few episodes from this. We get Our Man Bashir, which is a really weird episode.
So good though.
Yeah. And then you really start getting really heavy into the Dominion stuff. That really starts cooking this season, which eventually that's going to be all the shows basically focused on, especially in that last season. So it's really interesting. It's just a really interesting time. And I just remember this episode really stood out as like, this is nothing like TNG. Like this is, or nothing like maybe kind of TOS, but it's nothing like TNG. And we're actually getting really involved into these other alien species, which I don't feel like the show had done enough, except maybe and they'd done some of that with the Kardashians and the Bajorans, but it was really interesting getting to know more about the Ferengi, actually making the Ferengi more interesting. I think this episode makes Quark more interesting moving forward, probably Rom as well. I do love the I don't remember if it actually ends up paying off well, but I remember at the time, I loved Nog going to Starfleet. I thought that was a great idea.
I think that pays off. Yeah.
And especially with because you would assume Jake is going to go, right? Because he's Sisko's kid, and Jake doesn't want to have anything to do with Starfleet.
One of my favorite things.
And then you've got Nog. I mean, I loved that dynamic, and I loved the Jake Nog stuff anyways. And I loved that scene with them up on the promenade, just have because that had become like such a common trope on the show.
Their little legs just dangling off the promenade, just shooting the shit.
And you realize like this is going to be one of the last times this happens, and it's just stuff like that. So I at the time, like this episode really, really hummed. I still think it works, and I think a lot of, like I said, my love of like 1950s science fiction and stuff like that. How it plays in the tropes of all that. I think that's a lot of fun. I will say at 19, Megan Gallagher, who plays the female doctor in this, she was on a lot of television back then, and she was very attractive. And so 19-year-old me enjoyed seeing her and things. So that was fun.
My mum.
She actually joins the cast of she joins the show Millennium, which is actually a spinoff of the X-Files, like about a year from this, I think. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, she plays Lance Henriksen's wife or ex-wife. I can't remember because it's been a while.
That's cool.
Also, I liked, and I was really getting into X-Files at this time, and so this was a nice kind of play on that because that was obviously
it feels like Scully and Mulder could turn up at any minute. Yes. It really does.
This kind of feels like them saying, this is our kind of like poking the bear a little bit with that. So that's fun.
I'm glad that you said that because there's some things that I'll obviously experience totally differently popping in and out of these different, shows. So Deep Space Nine, I've seen a few, like a sprinkling of episodes here and there. I've never seen the entire series, and certainly not from start to finish. They're very much out of order and sort of more in the season and the topic that we're going over. But what I love about doing this is that it's testing how the writers and how the people who are shooting it, just the production entirety of the single episode can draw somebody in and keep their attention for just one episode potentially. And are they going to tell a good story without needing a lot of the context? And from what I'm learning, the earlier Star Trek was very specifically episodic. Deep Space Nine is very specifically more seasonal in that experiment of that longer storytelling, but you still have to do something in the smaller episodes to kind of capture someone and keep them centered. And in this case, we only had that beginning of the episode to see Deep Space Nine world. And I thought they'd do such a good job. I'm always really impressed because this cast is so different than TNG. It's such a different space to ask these people to kind of bring to life every episode. In this one, we only see Worf for a split second, but I learned so much about what's happening in this moment for him, that he's still sketchy about Ferengis. That moment when he does find something to potentially have in common with the Ferengi.
Yes.
And there's this smile between the two of them, this young Nog character that has probably been on this station his whole life, and maybe him finding enjoyment in quote unquote winning someone over to not just the Ferengi side necessarily, but just even beginning that relationship. And then, like you said, with the kid, is that Cisco's kid?
Yeah.
Is that right? I think I remember that he was a writer in the future or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So then you've got what is clearly their friendship. And I didn't need a ton of screen time to tell me that, but it did seem really important to the writers to give that to these two characters. And I love to see how much care the writers and the people who produce this put into this kind of material, because, I mean, it's obvious why it's loved when it's cared for like that. And we get to see all these different things that they just really quickly deliver the lines. There's another character who had her items stolen, and Nog was like, how funny, Kira. It was here the whole time and we just didn't notice it,
Yeah.
And those little things give us so much about Deep Space Nine. So even though we didn't spend a ton of time on the station in this episode, they still did a really good job of telling us in the overarching world of Star Trek where we belong in this series, because then taking us out and putting us on Earth 1947, that was really, really fun. But if you wanted to come back and see what life is like on the station, we now know some really interesting things. We know that Odo is kind of like the police of this area, and he's pretty strict, and he's gonna follow you and shapeshift. That was fucking cool.
I love it.
We know that there are rules. So even though Quark is clearly gonna take everything over, there's still some guidelines, and so that's another reason for me to kind of be more curious about Deep Space Nine every time we pop into it. It's really different.
So hard for me to not just go from episode 1 and take you through, because it's such a serialized show, and that bucks the trend of what Star Trek is so much. But it's so
it's what it used to be. It's very serialized now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so fun in its individualness, but it has so many layers when you watch it all back to back. It's a really
Did you
really
even
great
catch that Did you even catch that bit where they looked at that picture and it was Cisco from the past?
Oh my goodness!
Yes,
that was
a
whole 2-part episode in the previous season where Cisco went to the past and actually kind of became part of the past.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. Oh, that's clever.
Hey, doesn't this look like the
and
captain?
it was just kind of a wink to it. But it wasn't like you had to know that for
what
that
I liked about that is that Quark is like, all humans look the same. And he just Quark is a wonderful character.
He is.
I don't know that I have really, if we did a character study, we don't need to do a character study on Quark, because this episode's almost all you need to know about him. He is so greedy and self-centered, and I love it when a show lets a character like that get into the driver's seat.
Be flawed and do his flawed things in the lead. There's not some arbitrary thing at the end where he's like, oh, I suppose I should protect the timeline. It's self-preservation. It's, they're going to kill me if we don't get back to the future.
This is a whole other bag of worms. But the one thing about Quark I've always never really gotten a firm grasp on is, how is he really, is he able to make money? Because how do you sell food on a station where people have access to replicators?
So it's I guess the similar thing was, you could have a beer at home cheaper, or you can go to a bar and be social, and it costs a bit more. I think
we don't have replicators.
Similar sort of thing. Yeah, but I think it's a similar kind of concept. You're paying a bit of rent to be
and maybe you only
bar.
I assume you have credits or something. I assume you can't just replicate whatever you want all the time. I assume you don't get paid because they don't do money the same way. But
so I mean, it's the humans are the ones that have gone beyond money, but the rest of the galaxy hasn't.
So they still have visitors to Deep Space Nine that are not Federation. That makes sense.
Exactly.
But
and they have some kind of agreement.
like I'm like Bashir's in there like having dinner. I'm like, you could have just had this at home and not
Yeah,
paid
you could have had this
anything.
in your quarters, you jerk. Where are you getting?
And
the
how
money
do you even
from?
have money? Like,
Yeah.
where's your money coming from?
Did you just sell your shoes to get
That's a
that
whole
meal?
other. That had nothing to do with this episode. I
No,
apologize.
it's great. It has to do with Quark, and I find him
Yeah.
really, really fascinating. And I'm glad that there's a place for
Yeah, it's
something
cool.
like this at the forefront of an episode where I really didn't feel it lull too much. Did you guys feel
No,
like a
it didn't.
downshift
No.
in the plot?
No,
I
it
didn't
just didn't.
either.
No, they were
Nope.
definitely, like I said, this season they really started. They were just firing on all cylinders. It's like such a breezy. Most, I mean, there's 26 episodes or whatever, so you're gonna have bad ones. But
Yeah.
So many episodes. It's insane.
yeah, I do wonder though. Like, and I know this isn't. I'm not trying to like just shit all over Discovery and Picard. I like parts of those too. But I will say it's always interesting to me when I go back and watch like something like Deep Space Nine, and then I watch like the present stuff, and I'm like, why are you guys having such a hard time with the serialization when you had a show that you already did it on really well? I don't know. Maybe it's
Yeah.
Ira Stephen Bear. Maybe they need him. I don't know. But
Well, I think it's a compromise as well.
Yeah.
Like it isn't all serialized like this. There's plenty of, even in season 7, there's still standalone episodes. Like there is a middle ground there that can be.
well,
that can be
especially when you have that
explored.
many episodes. Yeah, like you're
Yeah,
saying.
exactly.
Like there'll be a random episode where Cisco plays baseball with some Vulcans or something. Yeah.
We have to do that episode.
Can we? Is it a sin or is it not a sin that there's so much sexual stuff in this episode? Can we talk about that real quick?
Welcome to Deep Space Nine. Yeah. No,
Like-
go for it.
That's why I'm really upset we never got a Deep Space Nine movie, because I think we could have had our first R-rated Star Trek.
It
film.
would have been.
Yeah, there would have been absolutely been some scenes. And so if we start off where this kid sells his porn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have hollow suites. Quark has
Yeah.
hollow suites, is what he calls them.
And
They're not
he's like,
holodecks.
here's my pleasure. Like, so to me, I'm thinking, would you want, like, at some point you're going to go into this pleasure wherever and you're going to stop and your brain's going to go, this is
Nog
what
was here.
Nog
Nog
was
was here.
doing.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
you need to have your own program. So selling that, first of all,
I don't
is-
want a 15-year-old kid's porn. I don't.
Thank you.
No, yeah.
I was like, that's
Totally agree.
And Dax was the one.
Yeah.
Dax is the
She's
one
the
that
one
bought it,
buying it.
man.
What are
yeah.
you doing?
For like
Dax is the most open to
doctor.
all this stuff because she's been many people. The episode before this is Rejoined, right? I think the one where
That
we
sounds
meet
right.
her former lover
Yeah.
when she was a man.
Former partner. Yeah, absolutely.
Partner.
And
Yeah.
then we get to Earth and Dad's just watching his son get ear
Dog's
jacked.
just getting like pleasured in front of his dad, and all his
And then
dad can
wants to
think
do it
about is when
himself.
is it my turn?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's
Huh?
Hey,
No,
at,
that's
at
all
19, I wanted to be those ears. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, completely fair.
I mean I'm not saying
At 48,
that it's
I
not
would not
realistic
be those
to
ears.
happen.
you cut the line somewhere at,
Yeah.
35.
Just different cultures, I guess, you know.
Yeah, don't judge.
Dad's over there
Don't
like,
judge
oh,
today.
why
Yeah.
didn't I think of that?
Well, they do mention that, and we do know this already, but the Romulan, the Ferengi females all walk around naked, so maybe they're just more sexually open as well. Like they're used to seeing the naked form and are just more open about that kind of stuff. Maybe it's a
nakedness-
carryover from that.
Yeah.
The nakedness to me does not. So I understand that like nakedness and sexuality in American culture hand in hand. There's
Mhm.
like it's a part of our culture. It is not okay. I don't agree with it, but that's just kind of how it is. So you know that Deep Space Nine talking about the Ferengi having naked women is intended to tantalize a little,
Yeah.
you know, like in that regard. I would like to think that to them it's genuinely no big deal, but then how sexual this kid is, I'm like, oh no, maybe
Yeah,
this is all.
true.
This is
Yeah.
they're
No,
sexualizing.
No, yeah, and the Ferengi don't treat their females well at all. I mean, that's
No.
definitely that.
Oh.
I
That's
mean, they
the-
call
that's
them
the-
females.
Yeah, they call them females, and they don't take them seriously. And
No.
you know, it's not. I mean, there's been like female Ferengi episodes, I think, where they've had, you know, they've tried to make strides or whatever. But I mean, that's kind of a whole
Yeah.
thing with their culture.
They do.
That is definitely making a comment on that kind of barbaric type thing.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I think like the Beta Zeds are kind of like that's a more like open
Yeah, they're
society.
super kind of
Yeah.
Because they can
sexually
get in each
free.
other's minds and they know what each other's
Yeah.
feeling. So that's
Right.
more of the like openly sexual, like everything's fine. We
It's
don't.
kind of
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
the Ferengi are. It's just more manipulative than.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was just a very uncomfortable part of the episode for
Mhm.
me, not because I'm uncomfortable with nakedness or sexuality, but it's just like, wow,
I
this is
understand.
they're
Yeah,
very
it's the
forward.
familial thing. Yeah.
They're very forward in their I don't know. Maybe I just wanted
Sensuality.
No, that's a
With
fair.
family
That's a fair
members.
point to make. I cannot imagine my dad and I would have gone for like the same woman. Like that would be super odd. And yeah, no,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that being weird. I think that's totally weird.
And I think like if Deep Space Nine is thinking we're going to say it. We're going to say sex. We're going to say these things that maybe TNG would have never said. And we've seen it in recent episodes too, where they've been more forward with like the sexual part of relationships, and that's fine. But in the Ferengi world, I wonder if the writers are thinking like, let's just keep pushing the PG-13 forward and do more sexual stuff without realizing that like in the context of Ferengi, they're going for a joke, but they're making things uncomfortable
weird.
in a way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's a time period. I mean, you have to understand too. The network television is going through a really interesting phase right here because, like, for the longest time, up until like into the '90s, like the primetime showings, like anything that was starting at 7 Central, 8 o'clock Eastern, whatever, that first hour had to be family oriented, which is why you always had like sitcoms and stuff. And then I think like in the mid '90s, maybe like Melrose Place started airing at 7 o'clock and like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And then all of a sudden we're kind of getting away from that. And then you got like NYPD Blue is having like sex. People are having sex. There's nudity. I mean, kind of nudity for 1993 or whatever.
Right.
And then stuff like ER and eventually like CSI, where you're seeing like all this like medical stuff, and you're seeing like more blood, I guess, more
More trauma, like
more
physical body trauma.
Yeah, and so Deep Space Nine's kind of been like TNG's kind of they're submitted kind of in that earlier stage, and then they're kind of towards the end is when all that starts getting changed. But TNG's kind of already in its own element. Whereas Deep Space Nine's kind of coming into this where they can play around with things.
Yeah.
Really
They can get away with things a little more. But which is funny because then Voyager kind of goes back to the TNG thing and just
very much.
But it's also that's a Federation thing too, I think. I think like you were talking about, you can explore more stuff with like a character like Quark because he's not in the Federation. He's not restricted
Different
to
rule set.
anything. He's trying to avoid getting in trouble by Odo, but other than that, like he can do kind of whatever he wants.
Yeah, he's free.
So,
They're free range Ferengi.
yeah, yeah.
Well, Danae, do you know who you can blame for your uncomfortability?
The church.
Well, yes. But yes.
Good answer.
That's the cold open. More specifically, the inventor of Umarx, the ear thing, friend of the show, Fred Bronson. So, you can blame him for that.
Oh, he invented that?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, I forgot the Umarx. Oh, okay. I saw.
Is that the ear thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
First
That's where they're
appearance
most
in Menage a
sensitive,
Trois.
right? Like that's their like
one of their most erogenous zones. Yes.
Imagine having.
That's your legacy, sir.
Just two enormous
testicles, nipples,
folds of very sensitive skin attached to your fucking head.
Just a passing breeze.
I know.
Or like, what if somebody like whispers to you or talks to you? Like,
anything
pushes them over the edge.
Whoa.
Whoa.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that. It would be desensitized.
Yeah, you would think so.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably why the dad is okay with it, is because the son needs to be desensitized as quickly as possible just to even make it in society. You can't even go outside.
Nope. Before we move into the sins, I did want to just mention an email that we had from David, who is username Sci-Fi Brony in the live chat. And I don't know if you know this, Jonathan. I'm a big Back to the Future fan, but I did not know this about the end of Back to the Future. The finale was supposed to be the DeLorean not driving past the clock tower in a storm, but it was meant to be the DeLorean driving into an atomic explosion.
I don't think I knew that. No, I don't think I've ever heard
And
that.
David sent me a video to the
Wow.
storyboard. Like, it got so far into production that it was part of the storyboard, but they cut it and made
Ah.
it the clock tower for budget reasons. But it's literally the same ending to this. Like, the Ferengi ship flies into the atomic explosion.
That's
The
wild.
DeLorean was going to do that
I wonder
as well.
if they knew that.
And that's what I'm wondering. Like, I don't know if that was a deliberate callback to the alternate ending for Back to the Future. But
I mean, that
that's
makes sense
fascinating.
because, you know, they go back to the 50s and all that. So that the nuclear
Yeah.
explosion apps makes perfect sense. that they
Absolutely would have been happening.
But yeah, I
That's
guess
an absolutely fascinating alternate ending.
I'm glad they did the clock, I think, because that's such
Yeah.
a beautiful
It's so
sequence
iconic.
of events. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think things worked out for the better. But yeah, that's funny. I don't understand how anybody gets back in time. Like none of
It's not
going around the
happening.
moon or the sun or
Superman.
it all
reverses
makes the same
time.
amount of
Yeah.
sense.
It's
I
all-
can't even send it because I don't have the brain to like understand
Yep.
what's
should ask
going
Brom.
on. I feel like they should all be dead, but maybe I'm wrong.
100%. I don't know how they survived the landing. Anything else we want to get off our collective chests before we move into the sins?
No,
Cool.
we've already had a lot of discussions. I had no idea we were going to have, so this has been fun.
It's amazing. I do want to. One final line is that Quark manages to use his collective knowledge, everything that we've seen him learn on Deep Space Nine, when he's just like, "Yeah, we've been watching you people root beer, baseball,
Yeah.
darts, and atom bombs."
That's like all he
Everything he's
knows.
learned from working in a bar. Like, that's his collective knowledge of humanity.
Because they don't care. They
so
don't. I
good.
mean, they didn't
don't
even.
care.
Because is Australia not a? Oh, I guess we can talk about
Yeah.
that. then.
Australia, it's amazing. Okay, let's head over to engineering for some sins. This is the part of the show where we re-engage our sin brains, remind ourselves that no time warp is without sin, even our beloved Ferengi Alliance. Jonathan, do us the honors and go first.
Just talking about like something that I thought was sinful.
Yeah, any like super sinful stuff. Imagine we were doing this for TV sins.
I mean, the universal translator always confuses me, but in this situation, I was very confused because even if they fixed it on their end, the humans still didn't have one.
Yeah, it's doing both ends of that, and we did
Yeah,
mention
and
how awesome like the backwards talking, different language thing
maybe
was. Like, I think
that's-
that's really well done.
But maybe that's possible because when they go to a planet that's like pre-warp, those people wouldn't have.
yeah,
universal
that's got to be how
translators.
it is. But that
I
means
guess
there's
it
a
does.
speaker projecting their voice out of their own ears into the human ears.
Well, and then but then also like our perspective, we're still hearing them speak English, which doesn't make any sense anyways. Like when it's not working, we're still
Yes,
hearing
yeah.
them speak English to us.
When the
but
humans are
then
going,
when it-
zip, 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 zip.
I loved that part.
no, I
No,
did.
I
I
kinda
liked
liked
it.
that.
Oh,
but
I
it's-
no,
I'm just confused.
I'm just remembering when it was like English overlaid with something else where I should be able to understand what she
Yeah.
is saying, but I
Yeah.
can't. And it was just barely in there. That was really
Oh,
clever.
were you not thinking in Ferengi during that? I was thinking in Ferengi that whole time.
Oh, okay. That's what I should have done.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Ambassador.
Maybe it's
do
because
they
I'm a
have? Do
female.
they have like books of all the languages somewhere? Do you think that's a thing that I know? Like Klingon, like you
They
can
do
learn
for
to speak
Klingon. I don't know if
Klingon.
they do for anything else. I think they have like
Yeah.
guidelines around how the vowels and consonants sound.
Oh,
and not
okay. That's
specific
crazy.
word by word dictionary and grammar and whatnot.
That would give me a headache. trying to figure all that
yeah.
out.
I absolutely have the same sin as wandering from the chat, Worf trying the tooth sharpener. Just at all.
So just stop
Just
it.
at
It's
all.
secondhand.
It was
You've seen
so
Frankie
it was
teeth.
so uncomfortable. Has it been cleaned? Has it been disinfected? When was its last use of another person? Why are we sharing dental things? My
Yep.
daughter used my toothbrush and I
Oh.
threw it away.
Oh,
know?
Yeah, immediately.
Oh.
Yeah. Stop it. Stop
No.
it.
Ugh.
that's
No, I
like,
mean-
like if you had grounded her, I would have understood. Like,
You should
It's
tell her
funny
to use
too
toilet
because
paper.
I want to
she
save her life. I mean, she doesn't need to do that. Like, that's not a good choice.
I walk into the bathroom and it's like in her mouth and she's super proud of herself for like brushing her
Aw,
teeth. And
that's-
so I
yeah.
don't want to dissuade her.
Yeah.
I want
Oh, I
her
know,
to
I
know that
know.
I am also proud of her for brushing her teeth. And it's like the big adult sized toothbrush. It's even like it's a big one. And there's the
Yeah.
whole it's like her entire mouth. And she's like, look at me. And I'm like, wow, This is so great!
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, you might as well have
Mhm.
cleaned the toilet with it.
Uh-huh.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I'm probably
Uh,
overthinking things. I mean, but
No.
still, that made me very, very uncomfortable,
Yeah, I don't
and
want that.
probably on purpose. He does it one time, and that's enough. Then he does it again. He holds it on there, and I'm thinking, what are we doing here? Why are we watching anybody put anything in
I-
their mouth that's drilling?
I feel better though about that now because Daniel and I just send a movie where there's two people that just meet for the first time at a bar share a drink, and we both like went to town on that. We were like, no,
Nope. Gross.
and now I feel less weird about that. So good.
It's amazing. Complete side note. I can't remember what video I was watching, probably for shorts or something, and I heard a Sin mention tribbles and somebody go and protect the grain because there's a tribble, and I'm like, oh, Danae wrote on this relatively soon after the Deep Space Nine episode.
It was a tribble situation.
Yeah, I'm happy you're making Star Trek references. Like
It
deep
was a
cut.
tribble
Not just tribbles.
situation.
This is tribbles going after the grain.
Oh,
That
what
is
was that?
specific
Oh, it
callback.
was on
Can you say the video?
Nice.
Well,
Nope.
maybe not.
Nope. That's why I didn't say it.
Really? It's not
Yeah.
out yet?
Yeah, well, that somebody's asking me what movie. I'm like, I can't tell
No,
you.
it
Yeah,
wasn't a
no.
movie. The one that I did was on a TV show.
I'm sure it's not out yet because we're like 3 months ahead or whatever.
Yeah,
It's
I
not
don't.
ahead.
Either way, if I've been looking at it for sure.
No, hold on. No. It was definitely a main channel.
Movie.
Yeah,
it
yep.
was definitely a movie.
Mm-hmm. With some superheroes in it.
No, now you've lost me. Was it?
Uh-huh.
Well, now you're saying too much, probably. Like they're gonna be able to
Shh.
figure this out.
No,
Anyway,
they won't.
moving on-
There's
back
no
into the
way
show.
that anybody could figure it out.
So, the chat's just like, let's go, tell us. No, the utter convenience. Like, they may as well have Chief O'Brien may as well have had a copy of the script in his back pocket as he hands the little book of everything you're going to need to know.
Oh, I had that.
Nod,
Yeah.
which has the complete like fake plastic cover, like graphic on top of it. But I'm like, here's everything you need, and like, he can have that at Starfleet. Like, he'll have computer access. He doesn't need it in pad form. That is 100% for this adventure. Also, like, anyway, it's stupid. That it was 100% plot convenient.
And I know e-readers did exist before Kindle, but I still was watching that going, wow, they like invented Kindle on Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
They
'cause that's what it
absolutely
looked-
did. They
yeah.
invented the iPad,
But
the Kindle,
e-readers have been
everything.
around since like the 80s at least, if not before. But it's
Yeah.
obviously very different format than what
Mhm.
they are now.
Jonathan.
Oh, are we back to me? I did have that thing about the book though. That was insane. Like, here's
Mhm.
everything you need to know.
So much.
I was just like, I guess we're just supposed to believe that they know nothing, but like, I would think that the Ferengi study like some geography. I just can't imagine like Australia still exists. I think. I don't think it's like gone.
No, it's still there. It's still a landmass. I don't know.
Maybe it's
I
not
can't-
called Australia anymore.
I think it is, but I kind of bought that the Ferengi wouldn't know all of the countries of Earth. I don't know.
Well, and they didn't know the term American either, which I thought was interesting. But maybe they don't say that. Maybe they just say humans. Maybe they don't classify them because he says we're Americans and he says whatever. You know, like
Yeah.
Which
They
I
do
guess
ma-
he's not saying. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's not saying he doesn't know what that is. But I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get it. There's definitely something in there. Ambassador.
I can tell you, it has come out. It was the Marvels.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's only recently come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you,
That makes sense.
yeah. So that's where you
Talking
Yeah,
saw
about
it.
the
Pretty
flirking.
quick. I think that
Yeah.
one got okayed pretty quickly. So I think we just threw it out there. I think that was pretty
Ta-da!
good.
Now you guys can go watch it,
Well
and you know
done.
that I wrote on it, and that I put it in a Tribbles reference because there is a Tribble situation going on.
Yeah, there is. That's amazing.
Okay,
Marvels.
my next sin, I already mentioned it, was the smoking. It was so uncomfortable to watch, and I know, like,
So this is a sin on us for being former smokers. Is that what
yes,
this is?
smoking is so bad for
Animals.
you.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's so
If I
bad.
got the cigarette, I'm
no
going to be the
upside.
biggest hypocrite ever and be like, no.
This
No
this
upside to
episode,
smoking at all.
I don't remember ever seeing a scene that had that much smoking in it. I cannot.
I was prepared to believe that when he lit both the cigarettes, that this was Ira Bear just saying, "Yeah, this is how much smoking we're doing," and he's just gonna like smoke both of them at once.
Like, and I know that the show addresses it, but it is a lot.
It's a lot.
And so the sin
Yeah.
is making me want to smoke.
Anybody that watched Mad Men knows that everybody was.
It's
smoking.
a lot. But in that first, when they're all watching through like the observing two-way mirror, there's just so much going on.
You watch
An
like
atmosphere.
if you watch old like talk show clips from like the 60s and 70s, like news talk
That's
shows and
wild.
stuff like that, everybody's smoking.
Oh,
like
yeah.
on set,
Oh,
like
yeah.
live on television, everybody.
Uh-huh.
Like there's more smoke in the air. You can't even see people.
So-
like, there's just
You know, I sometimes will go into the role play, and I play on a server where it's all like in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and I play as a character with other voice actors, and the running gag on the server is that when you smoke and like your little avatar is smoking, you talk about how healthy it is. Because at the time it's just like all the doctors are telling you, like smoking is good for you.
Weight.
I mean, I was
Mhm.
born. I was born at a time when they didn't tell my mom to not smoke. She didn't smoke because she said it made her feel queasy. But
Well, yeah.
but they didn't tell her not to smoke when she was pregnant. She could have smoked that entire time. Nobody would have
Yeah.
said a thing. I
Nope.
probably wouldn't have been any
Amazing.
different. But
I mean,
I'm
we-
still just as dumb. But
we have lived through the era here locally where I've lived through restaurants going from smoking to non-smoking restaurants.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
it's just now starting to be like, oh, you know what? Maybe all the research is right. Maybe this does cause cancer and major health problems. Maybe
don't-
we should stop.
And I don't know why that made me want, because I will say most of the time when I see people smoking on film or television now, it doesn't. I'm just
It was
like,
how
"Ugh."
much it was.
But it was something. Yeah, there's something. It was something about that was very.
It was triggering,
alluring.
wasn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it was.
feeling.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. I
Yeah,
started
weird.
drinking more coffee. I was like, oh,
Someone's
getting
gonna
the
get in me.
shakes.
Amazing.
Yeah, because because I did want to smoke some when I was drinking, but like once I stopped drinking as well, which had nothing to do with smoking, but I just stopped drinking alcohol, and I like it's just now I'm like grossed out by it. But then for some reason, watching that today, I was like, that sounds good.
It's weird. It was weird. I didn't like
Yeah,
it.
no,
Amazing. Well, you thought that was weird. The thing that triggered me was the history of warp drive across the Alpha Quadrant. It was very triggering for me because they suddenly dumped in a ton of knowledge that I didn't know. So they Quark confirms that the Ferengi got their warp drive because they stole it. No, they bought it from somebody. They bought it from another species. But then they also mention that his plan is to go to Ferenginar with the shuttle, and from that reverse engineer a fleet of warp ships. And the crucial bit is that he says this way we'll have warp drive before the Federation, the Klingons, the humans, the Romulans, everybody. And I'm
And
like,
your mom.
wait, and your mom. And this is the 1950s. I thought that the Vulcans had warp drive
yeah,
way, way before us. So it blows my mind that within a very small amount of time, the galactic powers all developed the same technology at basically within 100 years of each other. Like, it's so wild because in theory, whoever developed it first is dominating the galaxy. If the Romulans are 150 years ahead of us in technology, we're fucked. They are dominating everything because they're faster, better, stronger. But this kind of confirms that everyone arrived at warp drive and phasers and warp 9 at the same time. And whereas there might be subtle differences, it's just an insane coincidence to me that all of the galactic
yeah. I mean,
are kind of on a par with each other.
and one of the commenters just mentioned this, but I was thinking about that too. I mean, it could just be this is Quark's perspective. But
And
but
he's,
then,
and he's
but-
he's not smart.
but why is Rom not like you would think? Not Rom, Nog. You would think Nog
Nog,
would know
yeah.
more about this, or Rom even.
And the episode doesn't tell us that. Like that's extrapolating
Well, the
something that we're
Vulcans-
not told.
We know they had warp drive when we launched our shuttle, right? So when
Yeah.
was that? That was in the 50s.
That was 21. Oh, I know someone's gonna pin me for this. It's 2160. Or is it 2060? First contact is 26. Yes, 2063. I was only
Okay,
a
so
couple
that's
years
100
off.
years.
You were
It's a little
100
more
and
than
something
100
years off, but that's
after-
fine. No one's counting.
It's a little more than 100 years
So-
after this episode.
which is so I would have figured that the Vulcans would have had warp drive for hundreds of years, not just
or had been very
100 years
close
before
to it.
this.
Yeah, I see what you're
exactly.
saying. So we don't know that, but that makes sense. Yes,
It could just be that Quark is stupid. That is correct.
and I feel like in the beginning of Enterprise, when like at the show, when the Vulcans are there, there's other species that have warp
Yeah, the
capabilities.
Andorians. The Andorians do. The Klingons do.
Yeah, they do.
Sorry about that.
Awesome.
I apologize.
I thought that was my computer for a second.
It occasionally calls you a nerd out of nowhere.
That would make sense.
That's amazing.
Whose turn is it?
Anything else? It's Jonathan. Anything else, Jonathan?
No, that was. I mean, I don't understand how they get back, but I'm never gonna understand that. And it did feel like a bunch of
that was so stupid, wasn't it? That was just so yada yada yada.
And I will say the one thing about a weekly episode like that, it is one of those things is like they got to wrap it up, so they got to come up with something really quick,
super quick,
and just hope we don't think too much about it.
We can't.
No,
because his idea to stop the warp drive was to ignite the highly volatile whatever, and then it was going to somehow stop them. And then he's explaining it so fast with his mouth prosthetics, with his accent, that I was like, I don't know what is happening here. And Quark even says, I don't know what you're talking about. Just do whatever. And I was like, that's how I feel. That is exactly how I feel.
I'm trying to explain it. It's fine.
And then it gets to the end, and it's like, you know what? We're going to fly into that bomb.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whatever.
To a nuke. Okay.
Somebody did bring up that in the, I guess, Carbon Creek in that episode, we did find out the Vulcans were definitely, they had it in the 50s. Because
that's weird because that's an Enterprise episode, which is like 10 years after this. So that's somebody in Enterprise not doing their homework. But I think this is why they're hesitant to make these big statements, and why when they do, I'm like, inconsistency. Cannot compute.
Well, in Enterprise, there were like entire species that apparently everybody just forgot about.
Well, I mean, correct. Like the Zindi, and then TNG completely, basically forgets about the Andorians. But there we go. Ambassador, anything else?
Yeah,
I've got a couple more.
How does the dog situation work? So Odo shows up, kills their existing dog, and hides the body to take it over.
Yeah, only explanation. He's replacing an existing service dog.
Right.
Odo kills the dog.
Okay, the dog might be tied up somewhere. We don't know.
He's now dead.
We're just assuming that he killed the dog.
It died.
So he becomes the dog, and then just magically there's nobody in the adjacent room watching through the two-way mirror whenever he like morphs in and out of doggy form.
Stay under the window.
I would definitely go. I would try to write some stuff about that if I could. The confidence that they suddenly have that they're not being watched.
Well, he does it right in front of the two doctors, and it's like they didn't like react. They were like, huh,
no, they were out of the room. They left the room.
At the end.
Oh, later on they do it.
Oh, yeah. The doctors don't do anything.
Yeah, they're just like,
I guess we have shapeshifters now.
Yeah, they're in like a scientific wet dream at this point.
Apparently.
They're just like, yes!
They're definitely gonna go have some amazing sex after all that.
Yes.
They're already.
They are.
That is your wedding dress.
Like they get into that Jeep and they're basically already just full on in foreplay.
Yeah,
they're so happy.
They're all of a sudden okay with premarital sex.
It would be it was very confusing. It was very confusing, the dog situation to me. And somebody in the chat also who knows this series far better than I do, and I'm sorry I can't call them out by name because I don't have it up on screen, but they also said that something about Odo shape-shifting into a dog with far more detail than he could for being a Cardassian or something. I think that they were just...
It's such bullshit. Odo struggles with his human form because he's like, I could never get the details right. I couldn't get the ears right. That's why he looks very smooth. And I'm like, but you get every fucking hair on a dog right. Like
he was the perfect German Shepherd. Yeah,
perfect German Shepherd. So I guess he's become better over time at shape-shifting. Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. On that note, it's always disappointing, and I know there's a special effects limit here, that the incredibly intelligent shapeshifter punches people. I'm like, what you do?
Yeah.
You can be. I know you can't be a gun, you can't be a bomb or anything with complex moving parts, but you can be a mace. You can be just envelop them, like suffocate them. Don't go in and punch them.
Maybe he was
It's
just trying to incapacitate them and not demolish.
Okay, but do all three at once. You don't have to be limited to a bipedal form. You can punch everyone at the same time.
That when you get really into like the Dominion War, that becomes a thing because you're just
Yeah.
like, how are we winning? Like,
Yeah.
like
We should not.
why
The
do they even
founders-
need the Jem'Hadar? Like, I
They
can't
do
like.
not.
So are you saying like he would become giant octopus, 8-armed
Well,
It's
people?
like Wonder
Yeah.
Twins activate.
anything.
You know,
All I'm
whatever.
saying is 3 fists. That's all. All of the imagination that
A tidal wave.
it's done. Didn't have to be one at a time at all.
Oh,
mass
that's
isn't a
really
problem,
funny.
because we see him turn into an eagle and we see him spread out, so he can be bigger. I mean, it's exactly why they had to nerf them with the disease. But anyway, that bugged the shit out of me. Just
Yeah, I mean that part of it.
imagination.
Yes, obviously how they eventually get them, I get. But I'm saying, how did we even get that far into the
Yeah.
war?
Nah, shouldn't.
Amazing.
Murdered. All of us dead.
Amazing.
Yeah, my other ones came down to like the time travel nonsense, so much techno babble, but I think it's extra deliberate because when Rom does his initial techno babble, Quark is like, I would love to call you a genius, but I don't know what you just said. So I think they deliberately go over the top.
Yeah.
Ira Bear was very aware of the techno babble in Star Trek. Anything else, guys?
Nope. Perfect.
Awesome.
I'm
Well,
sure
that
there's so
was-
much more. We'll cover it.
Oh, so much.
We'll cover
Oh.
it after the show.
Predictions, Ambassador. I'm so sorry, but your predictions were
There were no
garbage.
boogers.
Nothing. There were no boogers in this. Although there was kind of like the nuclear booger that was in his ear, that they were sensitive to the nuclear radiation stuff.
That
but
doesn't. No.
there was-
I was going full
boogers.
on like
There was-
green. I
There
thought
was ear
little.
sex.
There was
Yeah.
ear sex. I should have pivoted to ear sex. You know, like
Mhm.
green little men boogers
Yeah.
to ear sex. It's just right there.
You should have done
Father
it.
son ear sex competition.
Yeah, and then
Hate
nothing
those words
fell
in that
over.
order.
Nothing.
No, nothing really fell down other than the convenience of science that got them to and from the future. It's bullshit that they get back to the exact right
Yeah.
date.
Logic definitely fell down. That's
Yep. Pips as well. How many pips out of 4, Jonathan?
4 being the best.
Yes,
3.5.
that's fair. That's fair. Ambassador?
I would say 2.
Yeah, this is a 3 pipper for me. We got a bit of a spread there, but it's a 3 pipper. It's fun. Fun enough. It gets a pass.
It's the
for being a
high
bit
end of
whimsical.
fun. It has a ceiling, but I
Yes.
think it kind of hits it pretty hard. So I think it gets up there. For
Maybe
me.
maybe,
I mean, that's
maybe just 2. Yeah, 2.5. Maybe
But
I'll
you
go
actually
3.
you brought
That's
up
fine. That's
one thing you brought up though, Danae, that I thought was interesting was you brought up City on the Edge of Forever, which is like a much better version of what
It
this
really
is.
is. Yeah.
City on the Edge of Forever might be the best. You could, if you wanted to say that was the best episode of any Star Trek series, I'm sure. I mean, that's fine. I get it.
I'd fight you, but I get it as well.
Yeah,
Cause and
I wouldn't
effect.
fight you too much.
the big differences here I think are like how they get back. I do
Mm.
like the idea that they're tying this into Roswell. I think that's really clever.
No, I always love stuff like that. I like
Because-
the idea. What if?
In the other one, it is entirely an alien creature that's just this time god,
Yeah.
Horrible. Worst
that brings
Guardian
them
ever.
back.
Yeah.
There's no other way for Spock and Kirk and the other guy,
Bones.
to get
McCoy.
McCoy.
to get out of the past, except for that they have successfully watched someone be killed and now they get to go
Yes.
home. I like the storytelling in that they had to witness. I don't know why they had to witness this happening, but I guess they caused it. They caused her to die, which shifted
Mhm.
the timeline to go the way that it went. And here, nothing happened. The only reason this episode is telling us that a government cover up is the only reason we don't know about the Ferengi already.
Which fits our
Oh, yeah,
current
that's
knowledge.
great.
It fits our current history. Like, well, it was just a weather balloon, boys. What do you mean? What did we
Yeah,
I
say?
love
it's
that throwaway. Well, and that was the whole X Files thing too. X Files acted like people. That's all it was just a bunch of people covering
Yeah.
up stuff. And it's
Yeah.
like at some point, like, how do we cover all this up though? I mean,
Insane.
Yeah,
Conspiracy theories don't work.
because this one, this is pretty hard to. I mean, it's sci-fi. It's hard to believe anyway. But it's hard to believe that, like, let's say that they're asking us to believe that the government would have had translated conversations with an alien species, and we wouldn't have had any ripples in our time for that.
Someone, you would just hope somebody would.
What truly
expose
happened
it.
is that Happy Man and Happy Woman are in the Jeep kissing and happy, and they get shot on their way out
they
of the
die.
base
Yeah,
because everyone dies. That's what really happens.
Goes really wrong and kills everybody.
To be
Because
fair,
they have to keep the secret. So the only one that survives is the general.
You don't really have to cover up anything I think we've discovered because people don't believe facts. So
that's also fair. Yeah.
I can show you a picture and I'll just still 47 people will be like, no.
No, he didn't. That didn't happen. He didn't show you that picture.
Yeah, that's photoshopped.
What I've always wanted them to do, because of ever since I saw like the Enterprise D Saucer section, is that I wanted a time travel story where only the Saucer section goes back into the past, and that's why we have UFOs as these flying discs. Like, just close the loop on that whole thing. That's why UFOs are UFOs.
Voyager episode, that 2-part. Are you guys going to do that Voyager 2-parter? Where they go back to the 80s or whatever, the 90s?
Is it
Future Tense? Is that right?
No, what's it called? Future's End.
Are you going to do that?
I'm thinking about it.
With Sarah Silverman.
Sarah Silverman, yeah.
That's hilarious because that's got that where there's like that photo on the news. There's like that footage of Voyager on the news. Like, how did that get covered up? Like,
how did you bury that? It's literally Voyager. That show's on TV right now.
Tom Paris trying to act like he's from that era. I don't know.
Oh my goodness, there's groovy, man.
There's a lot of great and bad in that 2-parter.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, that's an excellent transition because next week's episode isn't going to be Future's End, but we are going to Voyager. Hang on.
What are you doing? Timescape? No, you've done Timescape, haven't you?
Yep. Hang on, and that's also not Voyager.
I'm trying to guess.
TNG. It's TNG.
He's trying to guess.
No, then it's not Timescape, but the one where Chakotay and Kim. That was the one you had Daniel on, right? Where Chakotay and Kim.
Oh, Timeless. Yeah, we've already done that one.
So you're doing a time travel Voyager?
Time travel episode from Voyager, yeah.
So are you doing Future Imperfect?
Nope. No, Future Imperfect is TNG as well.
Oh God, I'm getting these. These all have similar titles. What's the one where they find the museum and everybody thinks Voyager was evil?
Oh, that's a great one, but it's not that. And I can't remember the name of it.
It's like
what's that called?
It's not called this, but like it's like school project. That's not what it's called, but it's like something. It's
Evil
like
Museum.
Yeah.
It's
the Vault of Eternal Destitution.
No, what is it?
It's Living Witness. It's an amazing episode, Danae. Though, like it's these other it's a species, right? They have like this Voyager museum, and it's like all painted that Voyager's like this military ship.
They find
really cool
backup of Voyager's memory banks, and it's all corrupted, and they make some invalid deductions. But no, that is not the right
doctor's
episode.
The doctor's like an evil android, and they have like an army of Borg, and Janeway is like a tyrant, which she kind of was. So
she was for sure. I don't know how I segue back into this, but we are going back to Voyager with season 5, episode 24.
Best of both worlds.
Damn it, Jonathan.
Season 5, episode what?
Season 5, episode 24, Relativity, which is one of my favorite Voyager time travel episodes.
I remember this one.
This is the 7 of 9 episode, Jonathan.
Okay.
Fun.
I think I know what you're talking about now.
Every time she's in an episode, it is the 7 of 9 episode.
It really is. She dominated those seasons of Voyager.
You guys did do though the one where the Starfleet guys there and the 2-parter. Was that season 5? The season 5 finale, wasn't that the one you guys did recently?
For what?
I thought you guys did a Voyager one recently where it's the guy, the captain, like the old Starfleet captain or whatever that Jane.
Oh yeah.
No. Wait, what? No, we didn't.
We watched one recently because he was like the bad guy, and it was when Janeway went all like Rambo.
What are we talking? What?
I don't know. Just give me a second.
No.
We watched.
Yeah.
Janeway during the monster one.
Oh, Equinox. Right.
Oh,
yeah.
Equinox. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that?
That's
Am I thinking of the
different-
right thing?
No, you're not
Yeah.
at all. No.
I mean, that does happen. She does
Different
meet a
captain.
captain that
Yeah,
had been
a different
shuttled out
captain.
into the wherever place that's far
Yeah.
away from the whatever stuff.
No, Captain Braxton is the one that's in Relativity. You're thinking of shit.
No, I'm
Equinox
saying
You are
isn't
thinking
that the
of
episode
shit.
like? Isn't that the one? Isn't Equinox like right after Relativity? Is what I'm saying.
Oh, right. I don't know. Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. That would be right. Yes, it is.
I don't
Oh,
know
my
why I know
goodness.
that, but I know it's the season 5 finale.
It's
So
amazing. I can't
or maybe
read
it's
the
a season.
chat. There's
No,
too
no,
much.
I'm wrong. Or maybe, yeah, I am because season 6 finale is Borg. Okay, I'm gonna stop
Yeah.
being. a nerd.
Listen, I'm just gonna say right now. Okay, Ian, I'm fine with next week's episode. That I have no idea what it is, but the chat is already saying it has a backstory that will need to be filled in. So I am expecting you
Barely.
not to tell me anything at all that relates to the show because that is how it's been going so
Barely.
far.
And it
Have you
doesn't.
guys-
It barely relates.
Have you guys addressed like Jennifer Lean, like how she ended up in Tennessee, like on the news and?
No,
Anyways, never mind.
not really. We haven't done a lot of Kess. We haven't done any Kess episodes, to be honest.
Oh yeah, because she's off after like what season 4
Yeah.
or whatever. So yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she
she
gets
left.
killed by that meteor.
Oh, sure.
I just said something completely random to sound like I knew what I was talking about.
Completely derailed me.
I think she just leaves the ship. That's
Did
what
you
she-
guys
Yeah,
actually try to
she
start
be-
remembering that?
Yeah, I was like, what? Because she basically becomes a meteor and nearly destroys Voyager.
So there was a TV movie in the mid-90s. This was like when like all this stuff was like they were doing all these disaster movies, and there was a TV movie on NBC called Asteroid. It was like supposed to be this big event, and it was terrible. Like it was nobody watched it. It was awful. But I remember Voyager had an episode that had something to do with like part of the episode had something to do with an asteroid coming down. And in the promo for it, it said, next week Star Trek Voyager will kick NBC's Asteroid.
Oh, that's amazing.
I will never
That's
forget
brilliant.
that.
That's
Because it was
great.
so, and I've tried to like find that ad. and I
that's
can't
funny.
Find it, but I know that happened. Like I had that on a VHS tape.
That's brilliant.
Anyways.
Right, segue back into the end of the show. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's Relativity, Warhead, and then Equinox. I was correct.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But until then, thank you for listening, everybody. Danae, I'm glad you enjoyed Little Green Men. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you and
Thank
stuff?
you for having me.
And tell us about your Bond podcast.
I mean, Oh yeah, well, I mean, we just finished that because we got through all the Bond movies. But Chris Atkinson and we did a podcast called Gold, Diamonds, and Death, a James Bond podcast. We covered all 27 theatrically released
Yeah, you
Bond
did.
films. So please go check that out. Yeah, and I still write for CinemaSins and all that fun stuff. And then I'm on Twitter at SamLoomis13. You can also find me on Letterboxd at SamLoomis13. So, yep.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next week, I'm Captain Ian, and I'm off to the Vault of Eternal Destitution.
Oh shit, that's not good for you. It is Don't You People Have Laws from me. And Jonathan, do you have a quote from today's show?
Oh yes, I do. I hope I don't. I was totally listening to what you guys said, but no, I did. If they buy poison, they'll buy anything. I think I'm gonna like it here.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mhm.
And live long and pod spa. I'm fully prepared to re-record that entire ending on my own. I think we got
Sorry.
it. No, you're good. It was hilarious. There's going to be amazing outtakes. It's so good. Yeah, Relativity is a fun episode. But no
I just
spoilers
looked at.
for
I
cat
remember
people.
it now. I just had to look
it's a
at
good
the
one.
plot
Fun one.
description.
Well, we have some
thank you,
comments to
Sarah.
get through.
Yeah, we do. Sarah, I'm very sorry that you joined the show an hour late. I don't know how else to communicate when the show is going to be. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you joined us late.
We're gonna do some Moopsy rounds. Jonathan, here's how this goes. Do you know who Moopsy is?
It sounds familiar, but I don't.
So there is an episode of the Lower Decks where there is a little creature. The crew goes to a zoo, and
yes, I know what
at-
you're talking about now.
at that zoo is this adorable little creature that
Yes.
sucks the bones out of things and kills
Mhm.
them. Since that episode, nearly every single episode since, the live chat has asked us to go, Moopsie versus what? Because we were doing a creatures series at the time where we were doing all these different creatures.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one's up is Josh is saying Jonathan versus Moopsie. Who wins?
Moopsie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like
Moopsie
that's
wins.
not even like I don't fight, so I would just give up.
Would you just like lay down and let it just?
I'm way too lazy. Like I just.
Would you try to like dive in head first so it's over faster, or would you just
take the head first?
Yeah.
It's fight or flight, but with me it's fight or lay down in the fetal position.
Okay.
And hope for the best.
All right. Moopsie becomes Odo's pet was a suggestion. No. Moopsie versus the Americans. Ian, who wins?
Moopsie wins unless they can nuke it first. But I think then that still kills the Americans.
That's true. All right, Jonathan. What about Moopsie versus Odo?
I think Odo's hard to beat.
Does Odo have bones?
Yeah, no, I don't know actually.
So he would just have to be
think so.
Like liquid go into Moopsie and then like become something else, and he could just split it apart.
Yeah, he is liquid, right? Because he has to go in that bucket every now and then and recharge.
Yeah. He's basically liquid. Yeah, he can create bones.
Super. Now I will say though, when he's in the bucket, Moopsie could eat the bucket.
But the bucket's not bone, so Moopsie's not interested. Moopsie eats bones.
And also, I think Odo just
because Odo is actually very, very killable. Like if you just know where that bucket is, he would be very vulnerable.
Just put a lid on it.
Yeah.
Just put a lid on it in a heavy book.
So the idea is that Moopsie destroys by eating bone. If Odo doesn't have bone, but
I think Odo would find a way.
I think Odo might win this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Damn, Flyboy, why are you shouting at us? Stop screaming. What are you doing?
Yeah, he could keep Moopsie as a pet. Absolutely. Imagine the two of them side by side fighting in a battle.
Adorable.
Oh
I
God,
just see
scary.
Odo petting Moopsie.
Okay, let's go through. Oh, here's another one. Link said Moopsie versus just the military base in general.
Moopsie would win that.
I think Moopsie. Yeah.
They were idiots.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't fight, but I would, if somebody came like from the 50s, I would fight them and win every day because a bunch of dumbasses. But anyway,
seems like it.
Here it was. It
wouldn't work
Flyboy.
in today's world, I don't think.
Flyboy said, "Clever move becoming the dog, but none of the MPs wondered where the random dog came from. And if you tell me that he took the place of one of the base guard dogs, I will become violent. That means Odo somehow restrained and probably rendered the poor pooch unconscious. Damn you, Odo." That was my thought too. So we had a very similar thought. Yeah.
That's it. Asked and answered.
Let's see. Here's a sin from David. Gala's plan for killing Quark by sabotaging the shuttle is both convoluted and very expensive. There must be an easier, cheaper way to kill your cousin.
It's so weird. It's such a weird plan. Like, what a bizarre way to get back.
Do we ever meet Cousin Gala? Does he show up? I can't remember.
That'd be really funny. It seems like he's a recurring character in that way.
If it happens, it's right at the end. Someone will know, but I don't think so.
Here's another sin. If Odo suspected Quark of transporting contraband, why didn't he just search the shuttle at Deep Space Nine? Instead of tagging along, it would have saved a lot of trouble. 100%.
I think he had to catch him in the act or something.
Oh.
It's better. It's like, why don't we seize all of the drugs? Because you can seize the people he's trading with as well. He gets a bigger bust if he catches him.
Plus, Odo really gets off on messing with Quark in any way possible.
Here's a question for you guys. Have you read Patrick Stewart's or Sir Patrick Stewart's memoir, Making It So?
I haven't yet.
I don't read a lot of memoirs. I need to read more. I've thought about that actually recently. There's people that have been like, I should read that memoir, but I have not read it. You have?
I do want to listen. No, I haven't. Yeah, I've got it as an audio book, queued up. I just haven't got around to it yet.
Does he read it?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful man.
This was really cool from Sir Ruthie, who said, "I loved the Nog going to the Academy storyline. Spock and Worf for the first of their species in Starfleet, but they'd already been there a few years when we meet them. The culture shock of the first joining is an interesting take."
I agree. I remember that stuff being interesting.
That's really cool. And I didn't know that because there is also then maybe something between that exchange of like Worf and Nog sort of like over the dental thing when they sort of like lock eyes and have something in common. That's another thread for them, is that they're the first of their species. I didn't know that. Great comment.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really, really cool. I do have a couple that were sent in by Sci-Fi Brony, who couldn't join us in the live show. Sin, Quark loaned cousin Gala money, ? That seems very unferengi, especially without an enforceable contract to keep cousin Gala from avoiding his half of the agreement for 10 years. So the episode could have been avoided if Quark had been a bit more Ferengi. I kind of get it. Seems very generous, doesn't it? And there's no there's kind of a spoken promise that Gala will pay him back at some point, but it's definitely not that would 100% be a contract that Quark would have put in place.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a comment from CDR Smith. This is in regards to their audio message from last week, which ended in a red alert, and I was very concerned about their ship. I'm at a diplomatic function and cannot fully attend the debrief. I just want to assure the ambassador that we are all fine on the USS Seaborg. The red alert was for an unstable planetary crust sample nearly taking out the science lab.
I have so many questions about sending that episode of the USS Seaborg, starting with the name.
I love it. Seaborg.
So great.
It's so good.
Seaborg are terrifying.
What a great
Borg
message.
mermaids. Borg maids.
Okay, we've got a ruling request
Merborg?
from
Yes.
Flyboy. Is the Bell Riots callback from the ROM's guide pad blatant fan service or poignant and clever callback or both?
I think the answer is both, to be honest. So immediately in my head, I couldn't remember exactly when that episode was. And for a brief second, I was hopeful that this episode took place before past tense, before the Bell Right stuff. So Nog just comes in, shows us a picture of Cisco in the past, and that's it. And we don't find out until later in the season that he goes back in time and that happens. But then I realized that episode has already happened by this point. So
Yeah,
it's
it was in
it's a little
season 3.
callback.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So it's probably unnecessary callback.
Nick says the Bell Riots are going to happen this year.
Apparently so. And the Irish unification.
2024.
Yep. Apparently so.
Davidson was, don't you people have laws against these things? Not when it comes to national security, and it's still true. Yeah, that's textbook sin right there. Slab was taking a pee break, so he had several thoughts. Here we go. 1, Rom is awesome. 2, Rom and Leader are my favorite Czech couple. 3,
Understandable.
how does fixing the universal translator make the humans understand the Ferengi if it's
What
in
Jonathan
their
said.
ear?
That's what I don't understand. But
Yeah.
like you said, they've never really addressed this. And when they go to planets that are pre-warp, like I said, they don't have universal translators. So
No.
Yeah. How does that work? We don't know. And 4, all the convenience that Nog read the relevant chapters of Earth's history. Absolutely.
Oh, just perfect, isn't it?
Would you two do a Noonien sing-along? Ha get it? Noonien sing-along. That's funny. David said Deep Space Nine made characters better. Worf, O'Brien, Luxana, Troy, Luxana, Troy, the Ferengi.
Luxana?
It explored characters in ways that weren't possible within the framework of TNG.
I don't know if Worf's better. I just think they made him fit into that. I think they just did a really good job of bringing him into that universe or whatever. I mean, it's the same universe, but you know what I'm saying. They brought him into that show, but I don't know that he's better than he was on TNG. I mean, I think he's equal.
He gets a lot more.
He gets a lot more to do, I guess.
He's nuts. Yeah, he does get given a lot more to do. Stop giving away free advertising, Danae. We need to get sponsored by Steve.
Okay,
Nuts.
fine. Okay.
And I will only stop calling it.
I
Steve's
agree about the
Nuts when we get
Ferengi,
sponsored.
but also, and I agree about O'Brien, but also O'Brien just had more to do on Deep Space Nine. I mean, I think, you know,
but
I don't think
bar.
he's
He had
changed.
like one decent episode in TNG, so the bar was really low. Worf
I
had
don't
a
know
lot
that I
in
agree
TNG.
that Luxana was any better.
Oh, she's way better in Deep Space Nine.
I guess.
The episode where she's with Odo and they bond and she takes the
that's a
hair
pretty
off,
decent.
that's
No, you're right.
incredible.
You're right. You're right. That's better. It wasn't like her and Picard, like, you know.
Getting horny. Yeah.
Sin removal.
I love Majel. I nothing
Yeah, she's
against
incredible.
her at all. But
Sin removal, the Bell Riots continuity was on point, but also Sin, if there were pictures, someone would have noticed that before now.
well,
You'd
that's
think, wouldn't you?
yeah. I mean, they even mentioned that in the episode where he's like, "Oh, guess I'm in the books now," and then they're just kind of like,
Guess I'm in the history books.
"Yeah,
Especially since it's an event that they know about.
yeah."
Here's a fun fact from the show. General Denning is played by the late, great Charles Napier,
Mhm.
who also played Adam, the lead singer of the Space Hippies in the TOS episode The Way to Eden, aka the episode only Dave likes.
I
it's not a
forgot about
great
that, but
episode.
yeah, when you say that, I can picture him. Very
Totally
very
different character as well.
Yeah.
Like night and day.
Charles Napier is one of those guys, though. He's in a lot of he's that guy in a lot of things. If you go back and look, you'll be surprised at how much stuff he was in.
I just watched Philadelphia yesterday, and he's the judge in Philadelphia. So I was like, what are the odds? There he is.
Yeah.
Wondering wanted to point out the hatred of the discount Agent Carter scientist boyfriend part of this episode doesn't need to be there. I'd like to hear thoughts on it.
Yeah, like that's one of those things. I don't, like I said, I wonder if you're watching it now. I don't know how old Slab is. I don't think he's super young or anything, but I think
this is wanting Slab to pin it for us.
Asking Slab to pin it.
Yeah. Oh, I gotcha. So yeah, like I just wonder if it's one of those things where you're watching it without the like knowledge of what they're kind of riffing on.
Yeah. The timeline. Yep.
But
our actual history, American history.
But even if you are, you could still think it's silly. I mean, it's not like the most amazing parody ever. I mean, it's not like super great comedy, but I think it works well enough. But I think the actors make it work.
It's a double ex machina that's not needed because Odo can break them out. Like they're not needed to save the day, so they are just there.
But then there would be
they're useless characters.
But there wouldn't be an American hero to relate to for the viewer.
Yeah, correct.
They would have all been villains.
But I kind of look at I kind of feel like they're useless on purpose though. But I don't know. I mean, I could be thinking too much into it.
And they're also villains that kind of like, we're only going to go so far. I will inject you with something, but only because the story is not going to let the injection matter. And then I'm going to go ahead and save you. And his point was like, why did you do this earlier? Oh my God.
Why were you injecting me?
Flyboy has a sin removal for O'Brien, pointing out to Worf that people felt the same way about Klingons in the Academy as he feels about Nog, and says the chief would be miles ahead at TV
great,
Sins.
and I hate that we can't use that ever.
Very, very well said.
Someone else made a point that O'Brien is crushed because he's a non-commissioned officer. Technically, even when Rom comes back from the Academy, O'Brien would have to call Nog Sir.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great realization.
Slab pulled over to give his opinion. Please listen to Sir Pat's autobiography. The way he tells his story will be lost just reading it. I've been listening to it on my road trip. Still have 5.5 hours left, and it is excellent.
I've never been good with audiobooks. My mind wanders too much, which is weird because I can listen to a podcast, but I don't feel like I have to focus as much as I do on an audiobook. So maybe a biography, though, since they're just telling about, maybe that would actually work.
You should try it and see if it does something different for you. Yeah.
But like a fictional, like I've tried to do fiction and I can't. Like I can't. Because I would love it. That'd be a great way to get more books read, but.
And also, it counts. If you're listening to the audiobook of a book, you've read the book. It's okay.
You're ingesting the book. I mean, I guess you're listening to it, not technically reading it, but it's same principle.
You've got it. You've got the words on the page.
Yeah.
Another sin from David. Quark sells this shuttle for salvage for enough to cover the fare home. Earth doesn't use money. Couldn't they have found a free ride back to Deep Space Nine from Earth?
How were they getting there if they didn't have Quark's shuttle? Just hop a ride back to DS9. It's a massive galactic hub.
They had to trap Quark back on Deep Space Nine somehow.
I did write that down, and I remember, which they didn't say they had to be there by a certain time, but like Earth did. If you like look up like how far Earth actually is from Deep Space Nine, it's kind of crazy how often on the show they just take a trip to Earth.
Yeah,
it would be like it's like a 2 to 3 week trip, easy. Yeah. Like if you're like on a fast ship.
It's amazing.
It's not like you're getting there like in 6 hours or something. No. It's a while. They're on the far reaches of space.
Another sin. Gold is good, says Quark. But in Who Mourns for Morn, when Morn's Latinum turns out to not be inside the gold bars, Quark says all that's left is worthless gold. The Ferengi view on gold is inconsistent.
Yeah, great callback. That's a good point. I mean, they're making comm badges out of gold. That's how worthless it is in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Earth doesn't use money. How do they all have money to buy stuff at Nog's
auction? That's what I don't understand. I mean, they have to have money.
They got some money to play with for sure. But I don't know how, like, if Starfleet is just handing out an allowance to its Starfleet officers, are they printing these credits? Are they just devaluing like, are we just creating inflation because they're just like, yeah, we'll replicate some Latinum. That'll work. Yeah, I don't know how they're getting hold of it.
Well, this show would not be the same without the live viewers. Thank you guys so much
yeah.
for being here and for all of your knowledge and your input during the show. It's such a pleasure to do this with you guys every Friday. We will be back next Friday, and due to the time change, again, sorry for the trouble. We had pre-loaded in this show before the time change, so there was a count, like they didn't automatically shift the time start. That's part of why there was trouble. So
with Shribbles,
just know that every single time we go live, it is based on Central Standard Time. 12:30 Central is when we go live every Friday. And if that changes, we do try to update it on Discord and on Twitter. Those are the two places that we can get it out the quickest if there's going to be a shift in our week. Next week for CinemaSins, everything is looking normal. So we'll see you on Tuesday for Recotopia with the narrators of our channels, Jeremy, Chris, and Aaron, with different things that they recommend you would watch if you haven't watched them already. And then an episode of Captain's Pod right back over here.
That's
and I
us.
think,
and thank you for all the nice. I read all the nice things that you guys said about me. I do appreciate it. I was just told I was not allowed to respond to people during the show.
I love Jonathan.
I saw the spirit animal comment. I'm appreciative, but what kind of spirit animal am I? Am I just a Jonathan? Like, how does that?
Are you?
No, if Sarah had to like pick one, it's you. You are the animal.
Oh,
everything. You are the animal, Jonathan.
Oh, yeah, based on Central Daylight Time. But CST is standard time, right? Like
that's the other half of the year.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
We're in the CDT range now.
Fucking
hell. So confused. That's a thing? I always just say CST. So Central Daylight
CST
Time
is half the year. Yeah.
What the hell?
CDT?
Why is this so complicated? Like,
I don't know.
Let's just all be on the same time.
Also, a huge thanks to those of you who are on our Discord. I put out a notification that we have a CinemaSins poll that has gone live. It is just a passive poll that is in every description of our videos. So you can find it on CinemaSins, TV Sins, or Commercial Sins in the description. And I put that poll on Discord because I didn't want anybody to miss it. And almost 100 of you guys went and filled out the poll within like 10 hours or less. And so I just really appreciate how active you guys are in the community there. Please be kind to each other. Everybody has opinions about content that might be different than yours. And I'm always amazed at how kind you are while also having different opinions. So continue to create a nice little fan base for other people to find us and jump in. And if you want to join Discord, it's discord.gg/CinemaSins. And we will see you guys. Oh, you want to know what time it is for you right now?
7:44.
7:44. He's 1 minute ahead of you. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
We will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for being here. We love you. Bye.